Cuddy. Let's get you out of this carrier. Here you go. Oh, look at that. Still feeling shy. Cuddy, I've got your favorite catnip. Here. Do you want it?
Rip it open and let that nip slip. Gonna get smashed up on some catnip. Home from the pound, under the couch. Hiding can't be found, catnip in the mouse. I don't announce, I only crouch. Then I do a little wiggle, then I pounce. I'm picking them up and ripping them up, they put me in the pound. Now I'm back in the house, brr, brr, get the mouse. Trip, tripping, I'm getting into that nip again. Clip, clipping, I'm cutting into that get again. Dip, dip, I'm getting to feed the fish again. Flip, flopping, if you're falling, then I'm keeping them. Ooh, my fly by, little sugar pie. These intriguing flapping wings, see them flutter by. I'm scheming for a way to meet them. Wanna catch them in my teeth and wanna hold them down and mince them, eat them. Should I eat them raw, should I season them and heat them? Should I beat them all or should I mash them up and leave them? Should I cut them up or should I hold them down and suffocate them? Should I clean them up and take them out and then incinerate them? Rip it open and let that nip slip. Gonna get smashed up on some catnip. Home from the pound, under the couch. Hiding can't be found, catnip in the mouse. I don't announce, I only crouch. Then I do a little wiggle, then I pounce. I'm picking them up and ripping them up, they put me in the pound. Now I'm back in the house, brr, brr, get the mouse. 6 o'clock at my back, this one's looking like a snack. And I'm feeling pretty peckish and I didn't bring a lunch sack. No. Or a snack pack, no. Or a cake stack, no. Or a spice rack, hell no. So which one of these fly little things wanna get to know me? I like a nice lunch meat, get it, get it. Which one of them fly little flutter ones wanna get invited to a dinner party? Lights on. When I see him creeping up and crawling in, that is when I begin stalking him and catching him. When you see me with a grin, that is when I'm tucking in yet again, crushing him and leaving him. Leaving him weighted up and waiting up with bated breath. Leaving him battered up and beaten up with a broken chest. Leaving him kind of fed up and a beaten bruise, you know the rest. That's what I do best. That's what I do best. You know the rest. That's what I do best. You know the... You know the rest. Bitty bada boom, the pen and papa, get the bonbon, get the pitter patter putting paws on the pom pom, getting glitter all over the kitchen, and this kitten is getting into the chicken, gonna eat it till I'm getting sick. I quit quitting, so I gotta try to eat it quick. Nom nom, cop creeping, so I gotta vomit on the front lawn. Not sleeping, so I'm gonna rap another long song, shopkeeping, papa feeding while I drop another bomb bomb. Thinking about my catches and all of my kills, the list is long long. Thinking about them little critters and how every single one of them is long gone. Thinking it's happening to me and they're thinking wrong wrong. Rip it open and let that nip slip. Gonna get smashed up on some catnip. Home from the pound, under the couch. Hiding can't be found, catnip in the mouse. I don't announce, I only crouch. Then I do a little wiggle, then I pounce. I'm picking them up and ripping them up, they put me in the pound. Now I'm back in the house, brr, brr, get the mouse. Rip it open and let that nip slip. Gonna get smashed up on some catnip. Home from the pound, under the couch. Hiding can't be found, catnip in the mouse. I don't announce, I only crouch. Then I do a little wiggle, then I pounce. I'm picking them up and ripping them up, they put me in the pound. Now I'm back in the house, brr, brr, get the mouse.
Hey, you, hit that subscribe button. Come on, it'll be fun. Hit it. Gotcha. Now you've got more videos to watch, and you'll be the first to know when new videos come out. We're home, Cuddy. Let's get you out of this carrier. Here you go. Oh, look at that. Still feeling shy. Cuddy, I've got your favorite catnip. Here. Do you want it?
Rip it open and let that nip slip. Gonna get smashed up on some catnip. Home from the pound, under the couch. Hiding can't be found, catnip in the mouse. I don't announce, I only crouch. Then I do a little wiggle, then I pounce. I'm picking them up and ripping them up, they put me in the pound. Now I'm back in the house, brr, brr, get the mouse.
Get the mouse. Picking them up and ripping them up. It's the most boring live stream ever, with a rare, most interesting content ever featured on the most boring stream ever. That there's a little cartoon music video that I made. I uploaded it in 2023, September 2023. And I think I made the song about a year before that. And then eventually made the little music video. It's fun, isn't it? I think it's nice. I think it's neat. I think it's kind of neat. One day you wake up and you're like, I'm going to write a rap song from the perspective of a cat. And guess what? They have to let you do it. They have to let you do it. It's called freedom of speech. It's called artistic freedom. It's what I have. Okay? And if you don't have that, get some. Get some artistic fucking freedom. And it isn't free. Oh boy, artistic freedom isn't free. What I've got here is a concoction, a combination, if you will, una mezcla between chocolate and coffee. I think these two things go quite well together. I call it choffly. I call it choffy. It's chocolate. It's coffee. What's not to like? Because we're going to need a lot of choffy as we embark on the next new part, the fourth hour. We're on the fourth hour. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? How quickly the time has gone by. Golly, it wasn't even just 2 months ago that we were starting on the first hour. You know? And I feel like we've been on a journey with these fellas. We've learned, we've laughed, we've loved. I mean, come on, let's think about this. The first time I did one of these streams, I didn't know anything about the UN resolutions. So many different people, I didn't know their name. Like, I didn't know who Ben Gurion was. It's a lot of shit that now I feel like I'm got a decent handle on. I understand. The Nakba. I did know about the Nakba going into this, but there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, so we've been learning a lot. If you've followed through and you've watched some of these streams, you've seen a journey into understanding. And sometimes on our learning journey, it's hard to see progress if you just go day to day, because progress is often gradual. So while I don't necessarily feel smarter than I was yesterday, I am a little bit, right? We're learning a little more than we knew before. We're building it on, and then it really comes to it's really stark after you go back and compare yourself to, months ago. Now, my sense of time is not very good. I'm gonna actually look at the old channel. Finkelstein v. Pestiny Hour 1 Part 1. Oh, it was only 1 month. What? 1 month ago? Wow. I streamed it. Oh, it was more like 2 months because it was early May. And now it's late-ish June. But the first stream was on May 5th. Right? That was my first stream embarking on this very strange project of deciding to very slowly and painfully, carefully review this debate by carefully reading and rereading and trying to analyze and understand, both in part and in whole, this whole conversation, this whole elaborate back and forth. Because it's so big, because it's involves four people, I just feel like it requires this kind of analysis. And it's taught us a lot about the facts themselves. It's also taught us a lot about what kinds of arguments are given in the face of facts that go against your position. I'm talking about the Zionists. I'm talking about Benny and Destiny. And they have, slightly different styles in their argumentation. Benny is a lot more equipped with facts, yet often chooses not to use those tools at his disposal. Stephen is he's kind of just a wild card, and he's just trying to elicit sound bites out of the other side that he can twist. And he also spends a lot of time describing what other random people might believe. It's essentially his form of a straw man argument, but he doesn't do the straw man argument thing where you pretend like it is your opponent's argument. He admits right away, well, there are these ideas, there are people who do this, there's some that do this, and he doesn't ever directly say it's the other side that's doing it. Stephen also does this very strange, what is it? He does the second person we in a very, I find it, a patronizing way. What is the second person we? The second person we is when you say we, but you're actually talking about the other person. It's often used with children. How are we today? We're going to remember to put our pants on, aren't we? We're going to wash our hands before we eat dinner, won't we? Right? That kind of thing. Or, it's not always patronizing, but it does, like a doctor will say, how are we feeling today? How are we feeling today? Right? And they mean, how are you feeling? But it's called the second person we, and there's maybe different ways people interpret it when they hear that. But I always interpret this, I'm interpreting it in that there's a kind of superior to inferior pipeline. When one person, like I can't imagine a child seeing a teacher and saying, how we feeling today? Right? You could say that to a group of children. You could say it to one child. How are we feeling? Are we going to behave today? We don't hit. But, you know. So, Stephen's use of the second person we is a little peeve of mine. I don't like his tone, especially because he's talking in a condescending, parenting sort of tone while saying absolute nonsense. Right? Just like making the most ridiculous wastes of time in terms of like, I'm just going to say the same thing, but using so many more extra words as like the preamble to what's my quick question. And we caught him before also saying this thing like, okay, I have three. Okay, the first one is this. The second one is, well, actually, it's blah, 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 and just goes off and never, ever returns to the list of three things that he said are the most important things to keep in mind. The most important things to keep in mind was that Benny and Norm claim that the IDF orders its soldiers to kill civilians. 2, that there's a difference between a rogue soldier and an order and a direct order from the top. And we never got to the third thing. Well, what was the third thing that's important to keep in mind? Why is it we have to keep those two things in mind? Plus, that little distinction that Stephen tried to make between a rogue soldier versus a top-down order, well, they spent a lot of time describing how if something is so drastic and big as an airstrike or a drone strike, then that must be ordered from above. That must be a top-down order. That can't just be a rogue accident. So Destiny essentially just made their argument for them, because he didn't really connect the dot other than just saying, that's ridiculous. You actually think that they would order it? That's fucking ridiculous. That's a ridiculous argument. With absolutely no explanation, no reasoning, no pointing to any evidence, no pointing out why he thinks it's ridiculous. Norm then tries to talk about the Great March of Return, where they clearly ordered their soldiers to kill and maim innocent people, targeting disabled people, targeting old people, targeting children. Now, we are embarking upon hour 4. Now, hour 4 actually starts 2 minutes in to the 4th hour at 3:02:06. Because we left off on a cliffhanger where Lex was like, what? Is there a genocide going in Gaza? So we're gonna listen. I don't even think unless we heard this part in the musical, this might be my very first time hearing this part. Could be my very first time hearing this part. So we're gonna listen. It starts off with a nice, beautiful, lovely, big purple chunk of text, which can only mean that it's our favorite guy, Moeen Rabbani. So I'm very happy that, it's going to start strong. We're going to get some things, and as I'm looking around, it looks like we got a lot of Benny Moeen, Norman. Benny Moeen. Norm, can you let Moeen finish? Wait a minute. You're admonishing Norm, but Benny Morris is talking to Norm. Well, I just plopped it in the middle, so I can't really adjudicate this. We're going to have to listen from the beginning. All right. So, with no further ado, let's do it. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Is there, from a legal, philosophical, moral perspective, is there genocide going on in Gaza today?
Is there a genocide going on in Gaza? Well, in several years, we will have a definitive response to that question. What has happened thus far is that on the 29th...
Excuse me, Benny, the fuck? Are you... Oh my God. Did you hear that? The fucking audacity of Benny Morris. He was one fucking sentence into his answer, and you had to start interrupting him, you dickhead.
Perspective, is there genocide going on in Gaza today?
Is there a genocide going on in Gaza? Well, in several years, we will have a definitive response to that question.
Tell that to Norman, he says. Tell that to Norman. Benny, you dip fuck. I'm really mad at you, Benny. I've been mad at you this whole time. But I've held my tongue. And I never said that you were bad. And now this is how you treat me?
Gaza. Well, in several years, we will have a definitive response.
You absolute gumball. So Benny Morris is not going to be at all. He's not going to be at all generous or courteous or anything like that. There's no more like professional courtesy. He's not going to listen to qualifying words, but he's going to make lots of qualifying words that are going to should be well respected, right? Moeen, I believe, is going to make a distinction between fact and opinion, okay? And that's something Benny Morris is not going to respect. This is just my guess. I haven't heard this part yet, but I can already smell it. Benny is going to conflate fact and opinion. So while Moeen can say, in a few years, we will have a definitive response. We will have a factual response where we can literally say, yeah, it was a genocide. That's just a fact. That's not even an opinion, right? Because in order to make something quote unquote factual, it has to officially happen through a court, and it has to take years, right? So that's not allowed. No, so that's like, so Norm's gonna be like, oh, is it or not? Is it a genocide? You just said you didn't know if it was a genocide. Oh, well, he says this. He's gonna try to be like, you said this, and he said that, and he said that, and you said that. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is frustrating. When you have people involved in this discussion who are not in good faith, it just gets your fucking, like, your feelers up. Like I'm in fight or flight mode. You're scaring me. Benny, you're scaring me. Let's keep going.
That question. What has happened thus far is that on the 29th of December, the Republic of South Africa instituted proceedings against Israel pursuant to the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. South Africa basically accused Israel of perpetrating genocide in the Gaza Strip. On the 26th of January, the court issued its initial ruling. The court at this stage is not making a determination on whether Israel has or has not committed genocide. So just as it has not found Israel guilty, it certainly also hasn't found Israel innocent. What the court had to do at this stage was take one of two decisions. Either South Africa's case was the equivalent of a frivolous lawsuit and dismiss it and close the proceedings, or it had to determine that South Africa presented a plausible case that Israel was violating its obligations under the Genocide Convention, and that it would, on that basis, hold a full hearing. Now, a lot of people have looked at the court's ruling of the 26th of January and focused on the fact that the court did not order a ceasefire. I actually wasn't expecting it to order a ceasefire, and I wasn't surprised that it didn't, because in the other cases that the court has considered, most prominently Bosnia and Myanmar, it also didn't order a ceasefire. And South Africa, in requesting a ceasefire, also didn't ask the court to render an opinion on the legitimacy or lack thereof of Israel's military operation. From my perspective, the key issue on the 26th of January was whether the court would simply dismiss the case or decide to proceed with it.
And it decided to proceed.
And it decided to proceed. And I think that's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's
beautifully
enormously
But you said they
significant.
committed genocide.
No, Benny, you're so obvious. Like, let's subtly steer the conversation in a more friendly zone for my case. Okay, we don't have to talk about that. Oh, we don't have to talk about that anymore. We don't have to talk about the case in front of the ICJ that was found to be plausible. We don't need to talk about that anymore. You don't want to talk about what was and wasn't submitted to that court as evidence? You don't say, Benny. You don't say. All right. It kind of, that's definitely Benny who's disrupting. Can we be clear that that was definitely Benny disrupting that? He interrupted Moeen. Norman said, "I thought that was beautifully inaudible." Let's catch some of these inaudibles.
Decided to present the case or decide to proceed with it.
And it decided to proceed.
And it decided to present. And I think that's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's enormously
But you said they committed
significant.
genocide. You already said they committed genocide.
I think that's enormously
But you said they committed
significant.
genocide.
Decided to present. And I think that's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's enormously
But you said they committed
significant.
genocide. You already said they committed genocide.
Israel
is committing genocide.
But
You said they committed genocide. You already said
That's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's enormously
But you said they committed
significant.
genocide.
And it decided to present. And I think that's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's enormously
But you said they
significant.
committed genocide. You already said they committed genocide. Israel is committing genocide.
But if I could
That
just.
word.
It's like a symphony. All four, as soon as there was a little, I don't even think it registered, but at one point we heard Steven go, "But if I could just," like he hears all three people talking and he's like, "Bop, bop, bop." Like, I want to do it too.
Genocide. You already said they committed genocide. Israel is committing genocide. You said they committed genocide. You already said they committed genocide. Israel is committing genocide.
But if I could just.
Already said they committed genocide. Israel is committing genocide.
But if I
Use
could
that word.
just.
allow me.
So there he is. Pestiny McFuckface butts in here as well. So Norm's like, "I said," and Steven's like, "What did he say? But like, I mean."
They committed genocide. Israel is committing
I also like.
genocide.
But
Said they committed genocide. You already said they committed genocide. Israel is committing genocide.
Benny's just gonna repeat, like Norm said, it was committing genocide. So now I find it funny that Lex admonishes Norm. Norm, can you let Moeen finish? Norm? Norm, can you let Moeen finish? Buddy boy. Lexifer Friedman, you are such a fucking dipshit, dip dong, dippity. Lexifer Friedman, you're such a dipshit, dip fuck, dip ass, dip dick, dip dong. You're a dip fuck, you're a dipshit. You're a dip fuck, you're a dipshit. Oh, Lex Friedman, you're a big dipshit. Yes, you fucking stupid piece of shit. Why would you tell Norm to shut the fuck up when you should be telling Benny to shut the fuck up? Because Benny is the motherfucker who keeps repeating the same motherfucking thing, talking over people when they've already know what the fuck he just said. Benny, you are a fucking bitch head. You're losing this debate, so you're lashing out like a baby. Ooh, like a baby. You're lashing out like a baby. Allow me. So now Norm is trying to talk. Benny's talking to Norm. He's like, you said it was. Yeah, Benny, and you said it wasn't. That's what the fucking debate is. They spend so much time just pointing at the other side and describing to them what their own position is. Either correctly or incorrectly. But for Benny, that's enough. Benny's like, you are against Israel, aren't you? You don't think what Israel's doing is legitimate. You think Hamas had a right to defend itself, don't you? Like, that's their whole argument. It's like, yeah, bitch, that's what we fucking came to debate. That's what we're here talking about. That's what you're supposed to be making a fucking case for. You used that word. Yeah, Benny, he used that word. Do you have anything to fucking say about it? Of course not. Because they're committing a fucking genocide. The only little thread you have to grab onto is that it's not officially stamped by the fucking international court. Even though we can all just see it with our fucking eyes. With our eyes and our ears. Or with our fingertips if you read Braille, you know? So then Benny's now addressing Norman directly. Norman, you did say. Lex is like, Norm, can you let Moeen finish? Norm, you had every right to pick Lex Friedman up by his fucking underwear, turn him upside down, and plant his head directly in a fucking toilet. And I honestly am a little disappointed that you chose not to do that. This is one of the things I'm disappointed with Norm's side, is that I think, while he did dish it out to Pestiny, and he dished it out to Benny, he didn't dish it out to Lex. At least not yet. Maybe he'll surprise me. But you gotta lift Lexifer Friedman. What does he need? He needs an atomic wedgie 3 times higher than the trees. Lift that atomic wedgie to the stratosphere until Lexifer learns what he shouldn't do when he's trying to be a neutral party, which is don't be so biased so obviously. Don't be so biased, Lex Friedman. Why do you always act unfairly to Norm and Moeen? You're always admonishing them for doing nothing wrong. And you're ignoring, like when Steven starts blurting out laughing in the middle of a discussion about civilians getting murdered by the IDF. Norm reacts to that. And what do? You say, I don't like the word hilarious being used. Because if anyone was laughing, they weren't laughing at the death. They were laughing at the camaraderie in the room and the spirit of learning. Now, we went over that in great detail. That's not what the fuck they were laughing about. Steven was laughing because he thought that Benny got one on him because Norm said the best trained snipers. Well, in fact, it was just snipers. They don't know how well trained they were in comparison to all the other snipers available. Right? Oh, you got his ass. And Steven starts laughing, and then he says, they're editorializing. Editorializing the language. Right? And he starts laughing. Benny turns over. He starts laughing. They're both laughing and giggly chuckling at each other with bright stars in their eyes because they're so friendly. These two are like a couple of buddies. This guy. They're like friends. They're like chums. They get along really well. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah. He's laughing, and then Lex goes, I really don't like that Norm used the word hilarious. He said everything was really good except for the mention of hilarious. Now, when Norm was saying hilarious, he was being sarcastic. He was giving it back to Destiny, who has like the emotional maturity of a fetus. I don't know how emotionally mature fetuses are, but I imagine their development is quite low. So that's what I want to choose to compare to this guy. No tact. No like emotional understanding of like, all right, if I laugh at this right now, that's going to appear insensitive. Right? At the very moment that he was caught laughing, in that unfortunate moment, he should have just apologized and shut up and stopped smiling and stopped smirking. There would have been no problem. But then he gets up on his little, I'm imagining him standing up on like a tree stump and pounding his chest. You're lying about the Great March of Return. You're lying about it. Oh, really? How's he lying about it? Well, he's lying. Look, here, I have the truth here on this piece of paper right here. I'll read the whole truth to you. First sentence he reads. It's exactly what Norm just said. Doesn't contradict Norm whatsoever. So what's the evidence that he's lying, you dipfuck? Or are you just going to spend the next 30 seconds speed reading a fucking paragraph from an article on the you got from the UN website? It wasn't an official UN report. It was just a journalist summarizing a whole lot of information and facts into a single paragraph. And he's like using it as this giant pillar of authority and saying that it completely crushes everything that Norm said. The problem is it absolutely does not at all contradict what Norm said. Norm said it was overwhelmingly peaceful. The source said the vast majority of the protest was peaceful, but there were some elements of violence, including throwing rocks at fences, trying to put holes in fences, flying kites, flying incendiary balloons, burning tires, Did you notice how none of those things were firing fucking weapons at elderly and disabled people? Systematically? I mean, the number of people they injured was in the tens of thousands. Okay? One IDF soldier ended up being killed somehow. We didn't get into the details of how that happened. But it's incomparable on either side. So that's Steven just being like, you're lying. Like, for him, and I've seen this with Lonerbox, Great March of Return to them is like, they're like excited to talk about it. Like if they're debating someone and that person mentions the Great March of Return, they're like, oh, you want to mention it? Oh, you want to talk about the Great March of Return? Yeah, it's really funny because a lot of people say that it was mostly peaceful. Well, if you actually read the report from the UN, and then he like doesn't read the report from the UN, he reads a fucking different article that's not focused. The article he's reading from is not even focused on that. The whole point of that article is talking about the victims of the Great March of Return, the Palestinians who were participating, who got shot by IDF soldiers, talking about the continual pain that they, and trying to piece their lives back together, and how much even an injury to the leg, while you still survived, can ruin your whole life. And it affects, it's a lifelong devastating injury that you will be suffering from continuously, right? So when you say, oh, they were just injured, they weren't killed, that is an act of incredible cruelty. Just mind-boggling cruelty, especially to target people who are already disabled. Here, have another disability. Boom. I mean, it's just unfathomably cruel what they did. And they did it with orders from above. So anyway, going back to this, we're not even 3-4 minutes into this. We start at 2:06. We're at 4:54. So almost 3 minutes in. Norm, can you let Moeen finish? I wish Lex Friedman had a southern drawl. Norm, can you let Moeen finish? Norm. We'll do that. We'll give Lex a silly cartoonishly southern accent, and that way it won't be so crazy that he says silly stuff, because he's gonna sound like a cartoon character because he talks like a cartoon character. I mean, it's like a fucking sitcom. Moeen's talking, Benny interrupts, and by interrupting, he's talking to Norm. And he's saying, Norm, you did do. You did do. And then Norm starts being like, yeah, that's right. You used that word. Norm says, that's correct. I don't run away from my words. And then he says, so Norman, you did say... Benny, are you stuck on repeat? Should we start calling you Benny the Broken Record Morris? You're like a drunk person. You're behaving like a drunk person. Just scream the same question at someone, and when they answer it, just keep screaming that question at them. You fucking piece of shit. Here's 40 seconds. You said they committed genocide. You already said they committed genocide. Israel said committing genocide. You said it 3 times at 40 seconds. Right? Then at 50, so 10 seconds later, you repeat it again. You used that word. Norm Finkelstein answers him and says, that is correct, sir. I did use that word and I don't run from it. So what does Benny say? So, Norman, you did say Israel was committing genocide. Hello? Earth to Benny. Knock, knock, knock. Hi, it's you from 10 seconds ago. You already fucking said that. You already got a fucking answer. Norm has just affirmed that your repeated utterances of garbage are true. You don't have to repeat them anymore. So, the third time that Benny repeats his point, what does Lex Friedman say? What does Lex Friedman say? What does Lexifer Friedistman III say in response to Benny berating Norman by repeating the same question again and again and again? Lex says, Norm, can you let Moeen finish? It's like a sitcom. There would be a laugh track here, right there. Laugh track. And then the music would wipe. Okay, next scene, right? Norm, can you let Moeen finish? That's where our laugh track goes. What an absolute ass. Lex Friedman, I didn't think you were going to piss me off so early into this hour. I honestly didn't see this coming. I thought we were going to get farther than 4 minutes into the hour before you pissed me off. I knew you'd piss me off some point this hour. Let's be real. Of course. Anytime you have to interrupt and just reveal your meatheadedness, then you're going to piss me off. But okay, it happens sooner than later sometimes. Lex, please be on better behavior from now on, because I can't deal with these distractions. I'm trying to fucking get through this debate. I've been streaming for goddamn 47 minutes, and I can't get past the fucking 2.5 or whatever minutes into this fucking hour. Lex, you distract me. Lex, you make me feel so angry. Okay. Now, at least Lex didn't say, Norm, can you let Benny finish? Because that would have been rich. No, he said let Moeen finish. And ultimately, while I disagree with you admonishing Norm for not letting Moeen finish, Lex, I'm at least happy that you're asking to let Moeen finish, because I want to hear Moeen finish. Everybody wants to hear Moeen finish, because everybody knows that Moeen is the fucking best. He's amazing. Anytime he's talking, suddenly the world is right and everything makes sense. As you're hearing a calm, authoritative, gentle, yet protective voice clearly and calmly laying out the facts. Even Norm said, I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was beautifully described. It was beautifully described, right? He talked about what's going on. He talked about what hasn't been decided, what has been decided, right? He also addresses a ruling that the court did not order a ceasefire, right? He's kind of taking into account a possible counter argument. Like, for instance, I could imagine Benny coming in and saying, but have you considered the 26th of January ruling where they did not order a ceasefire? Right? If it were a genocide, wouldn't the court order a ceasefire? Right? And that might be a decent fucking counter argument. I would be like, yeah, why didn't they order a ceasefire? That seems like that they should have done that. And Moeen says, well, actually, nobody was expecting that, in fact, because there was other genocides that have happened where they also didn't order a ceasefire. Bosnia and Myanmar, South Africa, it's Bosnia and Myanmar. It didn't order a ceasefire. In South Africa, it requesting a ceasefire didn't ask the court to render an opinion on the legitimacy or lack thereof of the military operations. The key issue is whether they had a case or not. Have you got a case? So we know there's a case. All right, let's get back into it. Let's see if we can get the fuck through this. Come on, come on. We're in a hurry.
To proceed.
And it decided to proceed. And I think that's enormously.
I thought that was
I think that's
beautifully
enormously
But you said they
significant.
committed genocide. You already said they committed genocide.
I also
Israel
like-
is committing genocide.
But if
You
I
used
could
that
just-
word.
allow me.
Use that word.
That's correct.
Now,
I don't run away.
So
from
Norman,
my
you
word.
did say Israel
Norm,
committing
I would
genocide.
Can you let Muin
Yeah.
finish?
well, the end of the story.
Ooh, it's even worse when I hear it and see it. When you see the fucking... He's clearly avoiding making eye contact with Benny because he doesn't want to acknowledge that Benny is the one being a disruptive fucker.
I don't run away.
So
from
Norman,
my
you
word.
did say Israel
Norm,
committing
I would
Can
genocide.
you let Muin
Yeah.
finish?
Well, the end of the story is you specifically asked whether I think Israel is committing genocide. I explained formally there is no finding, and as you said, we won't know for a number of years. And I think there's legitimate questions to be raised. I mean, in the Bosnia case, which I think all four of us would agree was clearly a case of genocide, the court
You
determined.
mean by the Serbs?
Yes. In the Bosnia case, the court determined that of all the evidence placed before them, only Srebrenica qualified as genocide, and all the other atrocities committed did not qualify as genocide. You know, international law is a developing organism. I don't know how the court is going to respond in this case, so I wouldn't take it as a foregone conclusion how the court is going to respond.
But
my,
Norman has determined already.
I have too, because you're asking my personal
Personal
opinion.
opinion is also.
So as a matter of law, I want
Lex Friedman, personal opinion is also...
conclusion how the court is going to respond.
But Norman has determined already.
I have too, because you're asking my personal
opinion is also.
So as a
Personal opinion is also... I don't know what he said.
Determined already.
I have too, because you're asking my personal
opinion is also.
So as a matter of law, I want to state very clear. Asking my personal
opinion is also.
So as a matter.
Personal opinion is also... I see his mouth open up. I don't know what that vowel is. What is he saying?
Determined already.
I have too, because you're asking my personal
opinion is also.
So as a matter of law.
I almost feel like he's saying is almost example. Or also example. Personal opinion is also example. I guess that's lost to the mysteries of history. What was Lex saying about personal opinion? I guess he's saying like it's good. Go ahead. Yeah, give me your personal opinion. Yeah. So Moine is describing the distinction between if something is in your opinion or is something in the opinion of the International Court, of the High Court of International Law. Blue Benny, which is a PLO line. Get with the program. The PLO is long past. PLO is the Palestine Liberation Organization. So when Moine says it's indisputable that Israel is engaged in a genocidal assault against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strips, he says that's a PLO line. That's a PLO line. So the Palestinian Liberation Organization also says that. Oh my God. That must mean it's not true. Now, Norm says the PLO is long past. So are they not a current? Is internationally recognized as official representative of the Palestinian people in both the occupied Palestinian territories and the diaspora. It's currently represented by the Palestinian Authority based in the West Bank of Al-Birah. Okay. So, I mean, this goes way back. Way back. To the 60s. All right, whatever. Let's hear what they're going to claim about it. Get with the program, says Norm. Get with the program, buddy. Ditch the motor mouth and get with the program, Manny Morris. Your politics aren't very groovy. Okay, the Palestinian Authority. As you were saying, genocide is not a body count. Genocide consists of two elements, the destruction of a people in whole or in part. So in other words, you can commit genocide by killing 30,000. Benny Morris, inaudible. Moyne, okay, I can guess through context what Benny said. Moyne says, well, 5 probably is below the threshold. There is a problem of numbers. Ah, yes, Benny. How many grains of rice until there's a heap? Ah, a classic problem. We therefore cannot ever define what a heap of rice is because you can't say that 5 grains of rice makes a heap. I mean that's gonna be your only thing, man. You at least you're latching on to something that's gonna get people talking in circles. You fucking dipshit. What a dipshit kind of fucking argument is that? Well, I guess okay. So if it's 5 people, fuck off. Attempt to destroy a people in whole or in part. So that number, if there's only 5 people of that fucking race left on Earth and you kill 5 people, then yeah, that'd be fucking genocide, you dick. Fuck.
Law, I want to state very clearly, it has not been determined and won't be determined for several years. Very clear. You asked how the court is going to respond,
but Norman has determined already.
I have too, because you're asking my personal
opinion is also.
So as a matter of law, I want to state very clearly, it has not been determined and won't be determined for several years. Based on my observations and the evidence before me, I would say it's indisputable that Israel is engaged in a genocidal assault against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip.
Which is the PLO line?
Get with the program. The PLO is long past.
Okay, the
what
Palestinian
defines,
Authority.
as you were saying, genocide is not a body count. Genocide consists of 2 elements: the destruction of a people in whole or in part. So in other words, you can commit genocide by killing 30,000 people. It doesn't have, 5 probably is below the threshold.
There is a problem of numbers.
Yes.
I think he just says 5. That's all it's just one word. It must be 5. Well, 5 is probably below the threshold.
But I think 30,000 crosses the threshold, and not reaching 500,000 is probably irrelevant. And the second element is there has to be an intent. In other words,
and you believe there's an intent?
Yes, I think if there is any other plausible reason for why all these people are being murdered, it's not genocide. And as far as intent is
concerned, what about
concerned,
hiding behind a human shield? You don't think that's a reason for them being killed?
Well, let's get the intent part out of the way first. South Africa's...
Forget South Africa. They're not the party.
Well, I'd like to finish.
I'd like pro-Hamas government. That's got nothing to do with anything.
I think they're pro-Satan as well.
I know, man. Benny is like, don't talk about that fucking court case brought by South Africa. Because, hey, let's be clear. South Africa motherfucking cooked your asses. Just their statements about like why they're bringing this case. Like, they cooked your ass. Of course you don't want to talk about it. Of course you've been trying to distract this conversation away from it. All you care about is what do you say when talking to Moeen, right? He keeps trying to say, you believe? You don't think? He's answering your fucking question about you believe there's intent. And he was going to talk about that anyway. The second element of the crime of genocide is about intent. He's laying out his case. Benny, you have no choice but to interrupt. You know, I don't even know why I'm mad at you for interrupting, because clearly there's nothing else you can fucking say. There's no other defense against this. I'd like to finish. Hamas government, that's got nothing to do with anything. And then here's Moeen's dry humor, which I love. I think they're pro-Satan as well, last time I checked. No, they're pro-Hamas. They're pro-Hamas. South Africa is pro-Hamas. Forget South Africa. They're pro-Hamas. Pro-Hamas. Miss me with that shit, Benny. That pro-Hamas bullshit. They pro-Hamas, says Benny. Yeah, and they're pro-Satan, too. Yeah, a bunch of motherfuckers, aren't they, Bunny? Those and also we shouldn't even fucking worry about what they said. Forget what they said. Oh, Benny, I thought you said they were pro-Hamas. We should dig into that. Maybe we should examine their evidence, and you can point out how it's skewed by being pro-Hamas. No. Forget it. We don't have to talk about that anymore. We don't have to talk about their case. Just please don't look at it, because they suck and they're evil and they're wrong. Oh, are they? Okay, show us where they're wrong. No. We don't have to look at it. We don't have to look at that. It's a waste of time. You little squirrel. You wiggly worm. That's what he is. Wiggly worming.
Pro-Hamas government. That's got nothing to do with it.
I think they're pro-Satan as well last time.
No,
I
they're
checked.
pro-Hamas.
You know, for some reason, you don't have a problem with people being pro-Israeli at the time of this. But if they support Palestinians' right to life or self-determination, they get demonized and delegitimized as pro-Hamas.
They supported an organization which murdered 1,200 people deliberately. That's my problem.
But supporting a state that
1,200 people, that's cute. But yeah, exactly. Moeen is saying what's on everyone's mind. But supporting a state that murdered 30,000, and that's such a low number. They're taking the lowest estimate that Benny would concede to, which is fine, because it's still an absurdly high number of atrocities. But the number, we need to add a few more zeros to that, by the end of this. At least 2 more zeros. And then Benny Morris is going to talk about the human shields. The human shields. Yeah, motherfucker. You're fucking kidding me.
it has murdered 30,000.
But they haven't, because these.
But they haven't. They haven't murdered 30,000 people. I mean, talk about, every Israeli accusation is a confession. Because famously, Israel plants its military operations and missile strike things in the middle of metropolitan areas surrounded by homes and hospitals, right? Israel literally has a military defense operations thing under a hospital, right? And those little settlements that were around Gaza are the main military, people, the operations that are inflicting all of the violence on the border of Gaza. These are the direct people. They work and live right there, like 2 kilometers away from this fucking concentration camp, right? What would that be other than fucking human shielding? Every accusation. So Benny is denying all of the deaths of people in Gaza by equating all of them to being human shields. Yet the 1,200, where a large number of them were killed by Israel themselves, human shielding. I mean, come on. Come on, Benny Morris. It's so weird. I mean, Steven is just revolting. You know, the guy, as soon as he opens his mouth, I just want to slap it shut. You know what I mean? I think that's a completely natural, that's a natural human instinctual reaction to hearing some kind of swamp slime creature like Steven like talk aloud, right? Now, I don't necessarily get that from Benny Boy. I think my very first impression of Benny... Oh, should we do it? Let's do it. Let's dip all the way back. My first impression of him...
He had said only Jews who were there in the eyes of the Jews reject this complex unity. Nations among states, Palestine.
Things that Norm said.
Yeah. UNSCOP, the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, recommended partition. The majority of UNSCOP recommended partition, which was accepted by the UN General Assembly in November 1947.
So that was my first impression of Benny here. I was like, okay, he seems like a nice guy. Whatever. He's just talking about this partition. And remember, at the time, I didn't really know shit about these partitions. We had to read about them a little bit outside of the debate to get a better handle on it. But, you know, he's just talking through some kind of historical thing, right? Now we cut back to the present, where we're at 307 something. And he is just going off.
You don't think they wanted them killed? They
No,
didn't
I don't.
provide them with shelters. They build tunnels for their fighters.
Okay.
He's got all the stories. Now, the thing is true. They do build tunnels. They have Gaza. They have fucking tunnels. That's how they're able to continue fighting, because they can just escape a lot of these fucking, you know, bomb droppings. And they can be in many places at once, and they can pop up in unexpected places, and they can get very, very close to the enemy through these networks of tunnels, which I think is very badass. That's also how the Viet Cong, one of their big strategies, right? You got to fucking fight. You got to fight effectively. And you gotta take advantage of the weaknesses of your enemy. Hamas wanted these people killed. Sure, if I could just get... No, I don't. You think they wanted those people killed? No, I don't think they wanted their own people to be killed by Israel. Benny, you're saying Israel is doing exactly what Hamas wanted? That's your argument. Israel is just doing exactly what Hamas wants them to do. Isn't that funny that Israel army is taking orders from Hamas, essentially? They're playing right into Hamas's hands. Don't you find that troubling, Benny Morris? Benny Morris, what a strange fucking argument you have. What a strange little man you are. You're a fucked thing, man. You're fucked. Your head's fucked. Your head's fucked. I don't know what else to tell you, man. You're fucked. You're fucking bonkers. You're going off like a fucking idiot. Why are you taking this position? What a strange and indefensible and nonsensical position to be taking. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? I mean, I'm not even mad anymore, but I am a little disappointed. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if there was like this, oh, wow, they make a great point, and they make a great point. And we had to like actually ponder and really think about like, and break down these arguments and make a tough decision. Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be interesting if Benny Morris put up any kind of actual like rhetorical fight? That would be interesting. But he can't. He cannot. It is impossible. So why am I mad at Benny for not doing the impossible? Well, I guess he shouldn't even be on the other side of this debate. I mean, obviously there are so many other wrong positions in favor of Israel that he could stake. There's a lot of these like facts that he could just go ahead and concede rather than try to twist himself to lie about. Just admit that you don't fucking care about Arabs. That's all it is. You like, they're less important because of their race and or religion, and my people are more important than them. Okay? That would be your argument, and then we'd have to go back and forth. Okay, let's talk about who does the most good and who does the most bad, and we'll go tit for tat, and we'll try to build a case for which people are more inherently valuable. Because that's really what you're saying here, man. But you can't just say that. So instead, you have to pretend like, oh no, I'm a kind-hearted, moral person who only disapproves of groups because they murder. And my side never murders. They only kill. They kill by the tens of thousands. But they do not murder. Technically, that's different. You fucking piece of shit. Fuck yourself. God damn it. Whoo. Can we hear any more? Let's try to get back to this. So Benny's like, you of course Hamas wanted them killed. You don't think they wanted them killed? No, I don't, dude. They build tunnels, but not one shelter for their own civilians. Okay, we've heard this before. That's how could he fucking know that? They have all kinds of secret tunnels, but none for their own civilians. How do you fucking know that?
Wanted killed.
Okay,
they wanted them killed.
All right, if I
Hamas
could,
wanted these people killed.
If I could just get,
you don't think they wanted them killed? They
no,
didn't
I don't.
provide them with shelters. They build tunnels for their fighters,
Okay,
but
if I
not
could get
one
back to my
shelter
point.
for their own civilians.
You asked me about intent.
Of course, they want them killed.
Okay, you asked me about intent, and the reason that I bought in the South African application is because it is actually exceptionally detailed on intent by quoting numerous...
All sorts of idiotic ministers in Israel.
Well, yeah, including the prime minister, the defense minister,
didn't say
the
kill,
chief of staff.
Didn't say genocide.
No, he said
According
Amalek.
to
He
Asa
said
Kasher,
Amalek.
Use the word
according
Amalek.
to Asa,
Benny's just fucking losing his mind. He is so scared. He's so backed in the corner. Steven's just sitting back, enjoying the show, I guess. He's got dick all to say about this. Rabbani is just, you can stop him, you can interrupt him, but as soon as you run out of breath, Benny, he's going to pick it up from where he left off, and he's going to continue driving that fucking train forward an inch at a time if he has to. But he is fucking plowing your ass. You're getting plowed. Before you were getting cooked. Now, it's more of a plowing, okay? It's more of a plowing this time. because you're trying your hardest to stop this. You're throwing arguments every which way and not. You're like, they build tunnels for their fighters, but not one shelter for their civilians. And then you said, of course they wanted them killed. Of course they wanted them killed. If I could just get back to my point. So remember, it got off as soon as he said, according to the South African, and he's like, forget South Africa. Forget South Africa. They don't, Hamas government, Hamas, South Africa is Hamas. Sure, Benny. Sure, Benny boy. We'll believe you on that, but let's go ahead and see what they said. No, don't look at it. South Africa has included an incredibly detailed account of intent. How do you prove intent? Well, one of the main ways is you look at all the country's spokespeople and you listen to what they said about what they're doing and what their intention is, right? And Benny's like, they're all stupid. They're stupid, though. They're idiotic ministers. Moyne says, yeah, I agree. They are all idiotic. And the prime minister is idiotic. The defense minister, the chief of staff. Benny Morris is like, here's his little straw man. Look at this man I made. He's made of straw. The prime minister didn't say genocide. The prime minister didn't say genocide. Wow. I guess you got me. It can only be murder if the murderer says, murder! Right? My client never said murder. He never said murder. He just said, I'm going to kill that guy. Never uttered the M word. Not once. Not once. He never said genocide. So how could he do genocide if he never said genocide? This is... I made a straw man. Watch me destroy it. Oh, it's really strong. Oh, I can't destroy the straw man. So the straw man argument stands. You didn't even dismantle the straw man. The prime minister didn't say genocide. Norm says, according to Asa Kasher, the philosopher of the IDF, he said that Netanyahu was vowing genocide. Now he's an idiot? Asa Kasher, the philosopher of the IDF? What does that mean? Israeli philosopher and linguist. Well, the Israeli military is conducting a valiant effort to destroy Hamas and rescue the hostages. Okay, we know what kind of fucking publication we're here. The Purity of Arms author might have exercised discretion before voicing his extremist positions. Professor Asa Kasher is a disgrace to his already dubious claim to fame as the lead author of the Israeli Defense Forces Code of Ethics, officially titled The Spirit of the IDF. Oh my God. Though it was his contribution to philosophy that earned him in 2000 the illustrious Israel Prize. He's best known for heading the committee that was crafted the oxymoronic Purity of Arms doctrine. Never mind that it was updated without his input a few years after the military first distributed it. It should be, since he's the one behind the underlying principles that endanger troops on the battlefield. Why this is considered a moral pursuit rather than the opposite is a question with a political answer. While Kasher might scoff at such a suggestion, his activism gives up the jig. Take his remarks at a rally late last month in Modin, for instance, opening his speech by pointing to a soldier from that city killed in combat in Rafah. He proceeded to assert that this young man and others like him have fallen in vain. Their deaths, he said, were due to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ambition to remain in power. Nor was Netanyahu his only target. No, he went down the memory lane by more than a century to blacken the reputation of Jewish national hero Joseph Trumpeldor. Whether fact or urban legend, Trumpeldor's last words as he succumbed to wounds sustained while defending Tel Hai in 1920 were, "It's good to die for our homeland," calling the statement stupid. Kasher announced, "It's bad to die for our country." To make matters worse, he went on to invoke David Ben-Gurion for his pernicious purposes, borrowing from Ben-Gurion's pronouncement at the outbreak of World War II that we must help the British fight the war as if there were no white paper, and fight against the white paper as if there were no war. Kasher said that the protesters must fight the government as if there's no Hamas, and fight Hamas as if there's no government. What? Okay, a philosophy professor could be that convoluted and keep a straight face. Only a philosophy professor could be that convoluted and keep a straight face. After all, it's the political echelon that makes the decisions for the army to execute. Kasher's solution to the epistemological puzzle was unoriginal: to hold early elections. Yes, he explained, it's imperative to disinfect the morally filthy government by replacing it with the uncontaminated normal and moral representatives. This is a wild article because this person is like criticizing this dude for being against Benjamin Netanyahu's regime, I guess. This guy does not sound like a good guy at all. It sounds like he's just like a liberal Zionist. But this seems like a conservative Zionist perspective. I guess. I'm not sure. The new government, he averred, will continue to call itself democratic in the way that communist regimes call themselves popular democracies. Perhaps inadvertently, he revealed that it's really the country for which he has disdain. Our culture is one of lies and pretense, in which people say whatever they want with no relation to facts. We won't be a democracy, we'll be something else, a kind of entity that there's no moral justification to honor. Israel's predatory parliamentary majority of bullies, Kasher bemoaned, could cancel freedom of speech, employment, and romantic preferences. Apparently, he forgot that Amir Ohania, an openly gay married father of twins, had just been appointed Knesset Speaker by those very bullies. Asked about an op-ed he penned in which he decried that the Jewish people had undergone two mutations, one Haredi and the other nationalist, Kasher answered in the affirmative, with one qualification, that he hadn't been alluded to bacteria and viruses, but rather to a significant change transferred from generation to generation. Once he got the COVID-19 metaphor out of the way, he reiterated his aversion to nationalists and Haredim, whose dictatorial regime will bring about the country's moral collapse. In the wake of the October 7 massacre, while the IDF is conducting a valiant effort to destroy Hamas and rescue the hostages, sure they are, someone as respected as Kasher might have exercised a modicum of discretion before voicing his extremist positions. Oh, so extreme. He's like, let's maintain our apartheid state, but let's get a different prime minister up in here. Clearly, however, bashing Bibi and demonizing Israeli culture is higher on his list of priorities than defeating Jewish states' genuinely genocidal enemies. Wow. So it's interesting to see someone who you probably consider to be a fucking... What does this mean? He did... The lead author of the Israeli Defense Force Code of Ethics. Officially titled The Spirit of the IDF. Is this really a thing? Do they really do this? A code of conduct can develop by the Israeli Defense Forces to formally delineate the morality and etiquette that should be displayed by an Israeli soldier. Do they stand by these? Are these just a bunch of bullshit? Or is it written in like a fucked up way where they... Love of homeland and loyalty to the state while adhering to the laws of the state. Human dignity imposes moral constraints on military activities and reflects additional values related to human dignity, such as sanctity of life, purity of arms. They will use their weapons and force only for the purpose of their mission. And comradeship. Soldier will act sensibly and safely in all his actions, recognizing the supreme importance of human life. Human life. In combat, he will risk himself and his peers to the extent necessary to accomplish the mission. Uses weapons and force only for the mission, only to the extent necessary, and will maintain human dignity even in combat. Soldier will not use his weapons and power to harm non-combatants and prisoners. He will do everything in his power to prevent harm to their lives, bodies, honor, and property. Wow. So believable that the IDF does that. That's in their code of conduct. So believable there. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Camaraderie with their fellow servicemen. No surprise there. Discipline. The soldier will ensure that only lawful orders are given and will not obey manifestly unlawful orders. Oh, interesting. So it's in their code of conduct that they will not obey unlawful orders. Our mission, our values, love and security and happiness. Look at our values, man. Human dignity. Every individual is of inherent value regardless of their ethnicity, religion, nationality, gender, or status. Unless they're from Palestine, then they're fucking nothing, right? Then they're worthless. Then they're human animals and we'll treat them like animals. No food, no fuel, no water, no power. You are fucking disgusting baby-killing pieces of shit. And the world is a worse place than it ever had to be because of your disgusting pieces of shit asses. Fuck off. I'm so... Don't you love to just hear the serial killers talk about how they actually totally respect and love the law and human life? It's just enough to make you wanna fucking... Why you gotta make our world so bad? Why you gotta make our world so bad and scary? Why you gotta make our world so bad and scary? You've got all this power, you could make it all just stop, but you wanna make this world all bad and scary. Why you gotta make it all so scary and so shitty? Why you gotta make it all so scary and so shitty? Why you gotta make the world so fucking fucked up and so fucking scary and shitty? That's all you wanna do. Fuck you. Why? It's just no one's going to tell me. No one's going to tell me, and I'm never going to find the answer. Why do they just insist on continuing to make the world be shittier than we can ever imagine? Why do they do that? I'm waiting. Powers of the world, please report back to me and explain yourself in 7 days or less. If you do not respond, then I will ask that you cease all enshittification of the planet Earth, please. Thank you very much. I'm putting a blanket moratorium. We're gonna stop all the bullshit until we figure out what the fuck is going on. I'm putting a complete shutdown on all, and you know who you are, atrocities right now. We're done. Stop enshittifying our world.
Hamas are
No, including the prime minister, the defense
the Prime
minister,
didn't say
the
kill,
chief of
didn't
staff.
say genocide. the chief
No, he
of
said
staff.
Amalek.
According to
He
Asa
said
Kasher,
Amalek.
Use the word
according
Amalek
to
because
Asa
the
Kasher,
Hamas are a really
according
evil
to Asa
organization.
Kasher,
if I may.
according to Asa Kasher, the philosopher of the
Asa Kasher,
IDF,
yeah.
he said that Netanyahu
He's
was
just an old
was
Iranian.
avowing genocide.
So-
Now he's an idiot.
So
I
the
didn't
point.
say he's an idiot, but he is past it.
So the reason I raised the South African application is twofold.
Yeah.
Hamas or no Hamas. It's exceptionally detailed
Okay.
on the question of intent. And secondly, when the International Court of Justice issues a ruling, individual justices have
Can
the
give
right
their
can
own,
give their own opinion.
yeah.
And I found the German one to be the most interesting on this specific question, because he was basically saying that he didn't think South Africa presented a persuasive case. But he said their section on intent was so overpowering that he felt he was left with no choice but to vote with the majority. So I think that answers the intent part of your question.
So for the ICJ case that South Africa's brought, I think there's a couple things that need to be mentioned. One is, and I saw you two talk at length about this, the plausibility standard is incredibly low. The only thing we're looking for is a basic presentation of facts that make it conceivable, possible, that plausible, which legally this is obviously below criminal conviction, below,
Yes, of course.
below.
Think of it as an indictment.
Sure, possibly. Maybe even a lower level than even an indictment. So plausibility is an incredibly low standard, number one. Number two, if you actually go through and you read the complaint that South Africa filed, I would say that if you go through the quotes and you even follow through to the source of the quotes, the misrepresentation that South Africa does in their case about all of these horrendous quotes, in my
They clip chimped him. Of course, that's his counter argument. South Africa actually totally clip chimped them. They took it out of context. This is like the debate bros' favorite little thing. You can literally claim it for anything because there's no way to ever report someone else's speech without clipping it. And you could never clip something in the way that someone couldn't then say, well, that's out of context. But what did I say before that? And you could add 7 more minutes to the beginning. But what did I say before that? And okay, fine, we'll play the whole clip from the very beginning of the show. Yeah, but what was that in context to? That was missing the context of what had been happening that week and the shows before that. Fine, we'll just watch every single long episode of every fucking stream you ever did. No, you can't do that. So and even when you clip someone and it's appropriate and it contains the context is provided, which could be checked up on later, which he's saying that he did that, right? He's going to say that these are misrepresented. Okay, I'm really hoping that he's got an example. Because then we can decide for ourselves. What was the quote? And then what was the context of the quote that that puts it in a new light. Say, oh wait, they didn't have genocidal intent. Ah, I get it. The misrepresentation that South Africa does in their case about all these horrendous quotes, in my opinion, borders on criminal. Criminal misrepresentation. Moyne says 16 ICJ judges disagree. That's fine if 16 ICJ judges disagree. But I'm going to give... Because remember, it's not just that they disagree on the opinion. And he even pointed out that one literally had an opinion that was contrary. The German justice was basically saying he didn't think they presented a persuasive case, but their section on intent was so overpowering that he felt there was no choice but to vote with the majority. So he's specifically on the point that Stephen is raising, which is the case that they made about intent. So Stephen's first thing is a complete non-argument. He's just stating his opinion on how low the threshold is. Plausibility, which legally is obviously below criminal conviction. So what does plausible really mean when we're talking about international law threshold? Plausibility. The court's jurisprudence on provisional measures to do. Okay, let's kind of skim through some of this stuff. The headline here, plausible has always meant possible. In order to understand this point, we have to consider where the plausibility requirement comes from and how the court has generally gone about developing its jurisprudence on provisional measures. Somos and Sparks points to the court's orders and passage to the Great Bill as the origin of plausibility. I think it's somewhat ambitious. At paragraph 21 of that order, the court repeats the Danish submission that Finland must demonstrate a reasonable prospect of success in the main case. Then it notes in paragraph 22 that the existence of the Finnish right was not challenged and implicitly adopts the Finnish argument that it would be inappropriate to pronounce on the merits at this stage. It's well known the Finnish application was eventually dismissed for lack of urgency. If there are hints of the plausibility test there, they are very faint indeed. So this is not a straightforward question. That there is a plausible case claimed to exist by the applicant. Tightening requirements for plausibility. I respectfully disagree with some of his remarks, but what about my assertion that the court is actually tightening the requirements for provisional measures? Court's order in Ukraine v. Russia, which is the first and only occasion that an applicant has failed to meet the plausibility threshold. At paragraph 47 to 45, the court's orders, it held that Ukraine's submission that Russia had breached Articles 2 and 18 of the International Convention for the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism were not plausible. Not because the rights in question did not exist, but because it seems the court was not satisfied that the alleged Russian actions had violated them on the merits. This implied that the court was going further than it had previously on questions of plausibility. It was engaging in an assessment of the evidence. Giving the rise to the death of injury, a large number of civilians. However, in order to determine that the rights for which Ukraine seeks protection are at least plausible, it is necessary to ascertain whether there are sufficient reasons for considering that the other elements set out in Article 2, Paragraph 1, such as the elements of intention or knowledge noted above, and the element of purpose specified in Article 2, Paragraph 1 are present. At this stage of the proceeding, Ukraine is not put before the court evidence which affords a sufficient basis to find it plausible that these elements are present. I don't even know anything about this case. I don't know how strong their case was that was found to be not plausible. This represents a significant and welcome advance in the court's thinking on provisional measures. A thought I developed at length in my research article in British Yearbook and law. Now, okay, as I'm reading this, I'm realizing this is just one guy's research and opinion about this, right? What does plausible mean in the ICJ? The court found that South Africa invoked rights that are explicitly stipulated in the Genocide Convention and that it presented factual arguments that purported to at least partially correspond with those rights. This is specifically about Gaza. South Africa v. Israel. Okay. So when Stephen says is the lowest plausibility standard is, as he says, incredibly low. Just on its face, I don't buy that the International Criminal Court has an incredibly low plausibility standard. Just on its face, I don't believe that. I feel like they would be potentially busy enough to perhaps not want to see every single case that is just based on hearsay or whatever. So this is just an opinion, though. It's not a thing. Obviously, it is the lowest level of proving something. Obviously, when you have the court a case, they have to decide whether they're going to even entertain the idea or not. They're just going to look at it, and it's like immediately on its face, is there anything legally wrong? Is there a lack of any of reason to believe one side or the other? Right? So obviously that very first hurdle is going to be the lowest hurdle. And then you're going to set a higher bar, and you have to clear the higher bar. And then you set a higher bar, right? So just because it's the lowest bar doesn't mean it is incredibly low as a standard. That's not necessarily the same thing. If I say there are 3 high jumps, we have the lowest one, the middle one, and the high one. It doesn't mean, well, that first jump is incredibly low. Not necessarily. It's just lower than the other ones. Now, let's think of something which is a low standard of proof, which is like if something is implausible. That is implausible. I was attacked by a flying giraffe, and the flying giraffe attacked me, and then it quickly turned into a bird and flew away. But it was a giraffe first. Okay, do you have any evidence of this? Yeah, I said it. I'm giving you my testimony, my sworn testimony. That's the evidence. Technically, that is evidence. That is direct evidence. Direct eyewitness evidence is my testimony. Thank you very much. And I want to sue the country of Denmark because I was attacked. And they not only attacked me, they attacked my whole people with flying giraffes all one night. It was 7,000 flying giraffes. And we're all scared because the giraffes turned into birds and flew away and we can't find them. Okay, that's an implausible case in the ICJ, I think. The attack of the flying giraffes. What if I said like international law plausible meaning in international law threshold, that's a word I would add in there. Didn't we make it like a nice table of like thresholds? What does this mean? Commit such a crime blank jointly with another person. Huh, I don't know. Only if the court is satisfied that the rights asserted by a party are at least plausible, thereby introducing a plausibility requirement. But what does plausible mean? I mean, in my layman's way, like interpretation of that, I'd say, well, that could be true, but I don't know for sure until I see the blank. Okay? Well, it could be true, but we're not going to know until we see the blank. Right? And so a lot of these are probably going to be like the specifics of the evidence that South Africa says they can show, right? I imagine they're probably not actually giving all the detailed like medical reports and things like that and doing the whole like checking evidence or like establishing, what's it called when you have to like here's this evidence and then I'm going to bring in someone who can like confirm and declare that they are the one who took this picture and they were here and there and at the time or whatever. Like you might be like, okay, but I want to talk to that cameraman or I want to talk to the blah, 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 right? It's just what I imagine. I have no idea how any of this works. But for me, plausibility means, okay, if what you're saying is true, yeah, but there's a chance that maybe you don't actually have all this evidence, or maybe this evidence has a slightly different ring to it when interpreted in a different way. And we'll, so that it's plausible. That's my idea there. So obviously Stephen wants to say the plausibility standard is incredibly low. That just seems like a completely unfounded, uneducated opinion. Moeen says simply plausible. Because Stephen's like, we're looking for his basic presentation of facts that make it conceivable, possible, plausible. Yes, of course, think of it as an indictment. Think of it as an indictment. Sure, possibly, maybe even a lower level than even an indictment. It's like an indictment. Okay. Sure, possibly. Maybe even lower. What? You don't have any arguments, you don't have any evidence. For example, give us an example of something that had been accepted as plausible when it wasn't actually even plausible, in your opinion. Give us an example of how incredibly low the standard is by telling us about something that was too low and should have not crossed the standard, but in fact was let in because the standard was too low. Let's see that limbo. You know the limbo? You got to get under the bar? And the bar was really, really, really low? So it's not even a jumping match anymore. It's a fucking limbo. Tell us what it is. Give us a fucking example. You can't. You just declare something. Number one. Number two, if you actually go through and you read the complaint that South Africa filed, I would say that if you go through the quotes and you even follow through to the sources of the quotes, the misrepresentation that South Africa does in their case about all these horrendous quotes, in my opinion, borders on criminal. So just bringing the case to the court, that was the true crime. The real crime is all this clip chimping. All this clip chimping you're doing is the real crime. The true criminals are the ones that are out there fucking snarking on me. Fucking rich, man. Rich.
That if you go through the quotes and you even follow through to the source of the quotes, the misrepresentation that South Africa does in their case about all of these horrendous quotes, in my opinion, borders on criminal.
Well, 16 ICJ judges disagree.
That's fine if 16 ICJ judges disagree, but I'm going to give
incompetent.
You know, they could be, but
it must be even the American judge. She must have been awful incompetent if she was unable to see the misrepresentations that Mr. Bonnell, based on his Wikipedia entry, was able to find.
So this is based on the official ICJ report that was released. I'm not sure if you read the entire thing or not.
I read every
Okay, that's great.
aspect.
Did you go through and actually identify any of the sources for the underlying quotes?
Actually, brace yourself for this, and Mouin could confirm it. Yaniv Kogan, an Israeli, and Jamie Stern Weiner, half Israeli, they checked every single quote in the Hebrew original, and Yaniv Kogan, love the guy. He has terrifying powers of concentration. He checked every single quote. Is that correct, Mouin? And Jamie checked every single quote in the English, in the context. And where there were any contextual questions, they told us.
I think they found one.
Yeah, I think they found one. So I do not believe that those 15 judges, it was 15 to 2.
16 to 2, I think.
They're 15 on the court plus 2, so it's 17, so it's 15 to 2. I don't think those 15 judges were incompetent, and I certainly don't believe the president of the court, an American, would allow herself to be duped.
Okay,
because
well, let me read.
You might recall, Mr. Burrell. Mr. Burrell.
Whoa! Someone turned on the motor mouth. That literally sounded like a motor. He's pulling the string of the motor mouth. Steven's like, he's itching to fucking read something really fast. He's like that kid. I bet when he was in school as a kid, he liked to read in front of the class and be like, look how fast I can read. So this is when, and this is a good time for Lex to step in. Now, he should be saying, he should be flipped the other direction and pointing at Pestiny McFuckenstein and saying, hey, Mr. Bonell, cool your fucking jets right now. Because you're literally yelling, let me read, let me read, let me read, let me read, let me read. You're screaming right now. And it's giving toddler. Just so you know. No, instead, Lex turns to the other side of the table, to Rabani and Norm, and says, whoa, hey, whoa, hey. Let him read. Let him read, boys. Let him read. He's about to read something. Well, let me read. Got his name right. He said Mr. Bonnell.
You might allow herself to be duped.
Okay.
Because you might recall Mr. Burrell.
He got his name right, and then he changed it to Mr. Burrell. You might believe Mr. Burrell. Mr. Burrell.
Okay.
Because you might recall Mr. Burrell. Mr. Burrell.
You might recall Mr. Burrell. But listen to Steven squealing in the background. Well, let me read. Well, let me read. Well, let me read. Well, let me read.
You might recall Mr. Burrell. Mr. Burrell.
Let me read. Oh, it's impossible to imitate. It almost sounds like a musical instrument.
You might recall Mr. to be duped.
Okay.
Because
let me read.
You might recall Mr. Mr. Burrell.
I think you want to read one.
Let him read.
Sure. So this was
Sure. So, wait. Let him read. Let him read, boys. Let him cook. This was taken from the South African complaint. There's tons of these. So here's one. Okay. So Steve Bonnell is doing exactly what he keeps criticizing the other guys for, which is cherry picking. Okay. Tell me this is not going to be cherry picking, or I don't know. I don't know what he's about to say. Let's read this. Here we go. They said that on the 12th of October, 2023, President Isaac Herzog made it clear that Israel was not distinguishing between militants and civilians in Gaza, stating in a press conference to foreign media in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, over 1 million of whom are children. It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It is not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved. I saw that. It's absolutely not true, and we will fight until we break their backbone. If you actually go to the news article that they even link in their complaint, the full context for the quote was, it is not an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not being aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true. They could have risen up. They could have fought against the evil regime, which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat. But we're at war. We're defending our homes, and we're protecting our homes. That's the truth. And when a nation protects its home, it fights, and we will fight until we break their backbone. He acknowledged that many Gazans had nothing to do with Hamas. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I agree there are many innocent Palestinians who don't agree with this, but you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen and you want to shoot it at me. Am I allowed to So he describes innocent Palestinians as having missiles in their kitchen that they want to shoot at Israel. That's his characterization of the innocent Palestinians. The innocent ones have missiles and they're trying to shoot them at me. Oh, so that's how you define innocent. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Can I even handle hearing Stephen Bonnell say this from his own fucking mouth? Because I'm going a little bug nutty just reading it. I'm going a little crazy just reading this shit because so what is it that they took out the part about how he claimed to be defending his home? Because like that, if that's not relevant to like, that's just an excuse, right? When you kind of admit to something and you fess up about something, and then you also backpedal and try to excuse what you just said, or try to, try to take it back or something. But you still said what you said. So, I don't know. All right, let's listen.
Taken from the South African complaint. There's tons of these. But so here's one. In the complaint for the ICJ, they said that on the 12th of October, 2023, President Isaac Herzog made clear that Israel was not distinguishing between militants and civilians in Gaza, stating in a press conference to foreign media in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, over 1 million of whom are children, quote, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. Yeah. It is not true, this rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved.
I saw that.
It's absolutely not true, and we will fight until we break their backbone," end quote. If you actually go to the news article, that they even link it in their complaint, the full...
Wow. Listen to that energy, that delivery. They even link it in their quote. They even link it. These monsters. They're so stupid. They even linked the original context and made it very easy for me to go and find and mischaracterize. Wow. So you're like, you know what they did? They criminally took out of context these news reports, these news articles, right? In such a creepy way. So what they had said, what the South Africans quoted is, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It is not true, this rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true, and we'll fight until we break their backbone." But if you look at the actual quote, the full context was, "It's an entire nation out there responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not being aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true." "We will fight until we break their backbone," which means it omitted this part. This is the context that reveal that this is not genocidal intent. This quote doesn't actually express genocidal intent because of this missing context. This whole chunk of words right here that was left out is will shine an entirely new light on these words. So let's go back to the original one and let's think about what this quote tells us. Like, why would South Africa include this reference in their case of genocide against Gaza? It says, this is President Isaac Herzog also saying this, by the way. It's a quote of the President of Israel. In this news, he's quoted as saying, by this news channel, "It's an entire nation out there that's responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true." Right? So he's saying all of these civilians, they're all involved. They're all working together. They're all Hamas. this rhetoric about how like they're just uninvolved innocent civilians, right? He's saying that's rhetoric. He says it's the entire nation. So he's characterizing all civilians of Gaza as military targets. Okay? And they clearly have intention to take out all military targets and to destroy Hamas. And Hamas is literally everybody. Everybody there is Hamas, right? Even journalists, even international journalists are Hamas, right? And because he says we'll break their backbone. Okay, so just based on this quote in the green here, yeah, that seems like that's a very troubling thing to hear from the fucking president. And what the fuck? Don't worry, Steven is here, and he's going to provide the actual context, and we'll see that this never had any genocidal intent. What are you, crazy? Read it in context. All right, so here we go. We're going to read it in context. It's an entire nation out there that's responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not being aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true. They could have risen up. They could have fought against that evil regime which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat. But we are at war. We're defending our homes. We're protecting our homes. That's the truth. And when a nation protects its home, it fights. And we will fight until we break their backbone. So what does this missing context here provide us? How does this actually affect and change the argument? Well, to me, they could have risen up. They could have fought against the evil regime which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat. So there's a little bit of historical revisionism. Right? There's this ridiculous, like, he's saying, well, the Palestinians should have had an uprising against their own people, the ones that we, Israel, were funding and providing weapons to maintain power in Gaza. They could have had an uprising. They could have had a bloody civil war. That would have been cool, right? So this sentence is nauseatingly genocidal. It's like it's blaming the innocent civilians, again reiterating his previous sentence where he's saying the rhetoric about civilians not being involved is absolutely not true. He's saying civilians are involved in this. He's saying their failure to rise up and fight against Hamas is indicative of their inherent involvement with, their material support and cooperation and participation of all Hamas activities are shared amongst the entire population, even the babies, right? Those babies could have risen up. It's an absurd statement. It's absurd. It's one of those Zionist things where you're like, what the fuck? Like, you have to just, like, you don't know where to start when you're like, how fucking stupid is this? It's ridiculous from every angle, right? This is kind of a fucking moron sandwich, and interesting too, because we have a big ridiculous moron who says jaw-droppingly stupid shit, quoting another insane demon who says jaw-droppingly stupid, absurd, and immoral shit. And so he's quoting the guy. And then now he's quoting him with even greater detail, including missing context. And I have a feeling that after this, Steven is going to say something even more jaw-droppingly stupid and fucked. That's going to basically explode my brain. And honestly, I'm kind of excited for it. I mean, because just think about how fucking fucked and genocidal this is. This is a sentence that South Africa left out of that quote, right? Now, is that in and of itself dishonest? Not really. I imagine the quote, because what we're seeing here is the transcript of Stephen reading it. We're not privy to any punctuation that may have been involved. So if there was a ... in between these two quotes, then I don't see any problem with it. That's fair game. If someone talks for a long time and says a crazy thing here and a crazy thing there and a crazy thing there, but in between they're like babbling, you can absolutely truncate those quotes and pull out the parts that are important. Now, that's why they included the original link in there, because, hey, if you want to contest it, if you want to say this whole part that you didn't say, totally takes it back and says we're not genocidal. Let's talk about the part where he says we're defending our homes, we're protecting our homes. That's the truth. And when a nation protects its home, it fights. So he's providing an excuse for why they are being so violent. Their excuse is that they're fighting to protect their home. And naturally, if you're protecting your home, you can use violence, right? Everyone agrees with that. So they're just saying we're defending our homes as an excuse. There's no evidence that they are defending their homes. From fucking what? What are you defending your homes from? From all the prisoners you keep? It's like you have this giant prison, and every day you walk into the prison and you just fucking murder and mow down your own inmates, and you're like, well, we have to protect all the houses around here. So we got to kill all the fucking guys in the prison. It's fucking wild. So, yeah, Stephen, swing and a miss. But like you said, this was taken, there's tons of these. So here's one. There's tons of these. I'm sure there's tons of these. And I bet you could waste so much time by just talking, like doing exactly what you're doing. Here's the quote that they said. But if you look at the full context, and then he can talk for like 12 minutes, enveloping the full context of something. So we just have to repeatedly listen to the same bullshit. He thinks this context somehow takes it out. So this sentence here doesn't say anything like, it's absolutely not true. Now, actually, I think it is true that the innocent civilians have already been driven to the south, and I believe that the evil non-innocent civilians are still in the north, right? If there was some sentence like that, then it would be like, okay, there may have been a little relevant information here. Or if he says, or if right after that he goes, that's what these people are saying, and I think it's ridiculous. It's not true. Or maybe the period is here. Maybe it says it's an entire nation out there that's responsible. It's not true. It's not true, this rhetoric. About civilians not being aware, not involved, it's absolutely, period. And then someone else is talking and says something and he goes, not true. Who knows? I mean, you could really do some games with punctuation, and you could imply a completely opposite conversation was had, right? That doesn't seem to be the case here. Here, he blames the civilians for anything that Hamas does. The next sentence, he continues along that line of thinking by explaining why they're to blame, because they failed to act. They failed to rise up. They failed to initiate a civil war against their own government. So they must prepare to die. We are at war with them for that. We will war you for that. Now, why was it cut out? Well, it could be that it's not necessarily a statement of intent. It's more of an excuse. Same with this part. Although, in context, this actually would be a statement of intent. But isolated, it's not an intention, it's describing we are defending our homes. We are protecting our homes. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to truncate it because there's no new information with this. There's just their excuses. I think that's what it is. It's the same information. It doesn't contradict anything they said above or below. But it's just, this is their excuse for why they're doing it. But up here, it's saying like, this is their understanding of the role of the civilians of Gaza, and here's our intention of what to do about it. Right? And so, yeah, this part is cut out. I think it's fair. I think it's fair, especially because they did provide easily accessible with a link to the original source, so the justices can go ahead and watch the whole thing with the context themselves. And so because Stephen was able to do it, the justices were also able to do that. Buddy boy, the justices also were able to do that. You dick. You fucking dickhead. God, he's a dickhead. All right, let's keep going.
Context for the quote. Go to the news article that they even link it in their.
They even link it in there. Yeah, dick. Because they're not hiding anything. Like, I did some true research and I went digging for stuff that they didn't want you to know about. And they put a link right there on the fucking document. How nice of them to make all their secret sources easily available for you. What a sleuth you are. Fucking dickhead.
Their complaint, the full context for the quote was, quote, "It is an entire nation out there."
He's trying to get that Norm Finkelstein energy. He's like, quote. The full context for the quote was, quote. Like, you can't say it like Norm says it. Only Norm can make your blood turn to ice when he says the word quote before he speaks. Stephen, you don't have the sauce. You don't have the je ne sais quoi to make anybody perk up their ears and interest that you're about to say the full context was quote. Like, the thing that's about to come out of your mouth, you don't even understand how fucking insane and genocidal it sounds. And how the full quote, like, at the very least, all you're trying to say is that this quote was truncated and lacks the excuses that they were implying, that was being implied in between describing their intentions. And you're talking as if you're about to burn Benny's ass like a barbecued steak. You're not Norm Finkelstein, Destiny. You're just a Pestiny. You're worse than the rest of me. Oh, motherfucking Pestiny, you're a motherfucking pest. Get away from me. You fuck. Slap your face, slap your dick. Repeat. Never stop. That's what you have to do. Oh, I can't even stand to hear 2 words from this motherfucker before he just gets me sent off.
Quote. If you actually go to the news article that they even link it in their complaint, the full context for the quote was, quote, "It is an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not being aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true. They could have risen up. They could have fought against that evil regime, which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat. But we are at war. We are defending our homes. We are protecting our homes. That's the truth. And when a nation protects its home, it fights, and we will fight until we break their backbone." He acknowledged that many Gazans had nothing to do with Hamas, but was adamant that others did. Quote, "I agree, there are many innocent Palestinians who don't agree with this, but if you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen and you want to shoot it at me, am I allowed to defend myself? We have to defend ourselves. We have the right to do so. This is not the same."
I see. So this quote continued, and we briefly discussed the whole. Okay, so this part is also, I'm gonna italicize. He acknowledged that many had nothing to do with Hamas. He was adamant others did. He said he agreed that there are many innocent Palestinians who don't agree with this. But you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen and you want to shoot it at me. This is the president of Israel. So his characterization of innocent people who have nothing to do with Hamas are people who have fucking missiles in their goddamn kitchens. And they're pointed directly at the president. Okay. So that part was also not featured because it's, again, you have to end a clip somewhere. You have to end an example somewhere. Like, just because we didn't include all the excuses that he said and all the backpedaling that he did and all the mealy-mouthing and the talking out of both sides of your mouth and all the Hasbara, just because that wasn't explicitly cited, even though it literally was, because as you admit, this was included in the report. But what was highlighted were the most damning words. Right, that's how it's done, bitch. If we say, hey, you said a thing, I could prove it. Look, boom, 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 and here's the citation. We have you saying that thing. But yeah, but what did I say for 4 minutes after that? I don't care. We're here to talk about what you did, not how you backpedaled after it. That's for you to do right now.
Am I allowed to defend myself? We have to defend ourselves. We have the right to do so. This is not the same as saying there's no distinction between militants and civilians in Gaza. His statement here is actually fully compliant with international law to the letter.
This is not the same as saying there's no distinction between militants and civilians in Gaza. His statement is fully compliant with international law to the letter. Okay, saying because he later accused, quote unquote, you of having a missile in your, quote, goddamn kitchen. When he threatens to break the backbone, he's fully compliant with international law. That's not called being compliant. You know, your words aren't compliant with international law. It's like we don't just judge like here's what he said and technically that is compliant. Technically what he said is not illegal to say. This is one piece of evidence of the case of the intent. You look at all the officials, the spokespeople, the high-ranking fucks, and you quote them. Just because he gave some mealy-mouth fucking excuses and just a blatant, like, he says, you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen. Hey, is that fucking plausible? Does that reach the standard of plausibility? When one asshole just says on TV that the Palestinians have missiles in their kitchens? I wonder what threshold that reaches. In, if it's the reasonable suspicion, plausibility, who knows? You're such a dick. You're such an ignorant dick fuck. And you're slimy and you're gross. Stop being so fucking gross and slimy, Steven. Jesus, bring a fucking towel at least. Clean that slime up.
Because if you are storing military supplies in civilian areas, these things become military targets, and you're allowed to do proportionality assessments afterwards. So if this is supposed to be one of many quotes that they've shown that is supposed to demonstrate genocidal intent, but it is very easily explained by...
We'll kill them all. Why? They all have weapons in their kitchens. So that's not genocidal intent. Because if they have weapons in their kitchens, then it's totally valid for me to fucking blow up their whole neighborhood. Okay, let's say that's true. How do you know they all have missiles in their kitchens? All of them? Well, maybe. We had to be careful. We had to be safe. So we carpet bombed. You're I knew it'd be stupid. You heard me. I expected the stupidity. I was looking forward to it even. Just like you think like, ooh, I want to do that spicy chili biting challenge. And then you bite into it. And then you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, what have I done? Oh, fuck, what have I done? Steven. So he reads exactly the same quote that indicated genocidal intent, including the phrase, we will fight until we break their backbone. He says the rhetoric about civilians not being aware is not true. He says even the innocent people have missiles in their kitchen, and the innocent people want to shoot at them. Those are the innocent ones. So because this guy, after declaring his genocidal intent, said, you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen. Steven says, he says, if you are storing military supplies in civilian areas, these things become military targets. And you're allowed to do proportionality assessments afterwards. So based on this lunatic fuck saying, quote unquote, you, meaning you innocent Palestinians who don't agree with this, why do you have a missile in your goddamn kitchen? And Steven's like, oh, okay, well, they have missiles in their kitchens then. To even think that even this guy fucking believes that is ridiculous. But to then even probably imply that it's true. So Steven thinks every single house is storing military supplies. That's how he said a missile in your goddamn kitchen. Just one? It's like one missile per kitchen. It's like, fuck, we need another missile. Where? No, you got to know next door. It's in her kitchen. I already used my missile. Well, fucking make another one. I don't know how to make a missile. You just brought it up to my kitchen here. Well, I don't know why you left this missile here. It's to storage. It's so that they don't kill you, or so they don't destroy our missiles by killing you. Oh, but don't they just kill anybody anyway? Well, yeah. Maybe we should hide the missiles underground or something. Oh, fuck. God damn, that's a good idea. It's the way that Israelis talk about what Hamas is doing, what the fucking, the way they talk about like what their intents and also like their way of doing things, it just paints this complete cartoonish picture. Like I literally just imagine these cartoons. You know, remember Spy versus Spy? It just seems like slapsticky like that. It's so ridiculous. And Stephen's like, oh, yes, well, do you see? You see the missing context? Missile in your goddamn kitchen? He said missile in your goddamn kitchen. And then he says, if you are storing military supplies in civilian areas, these things become military targets. Military supplies even. Not even like weapons. That could mean food. You have food in civilian areas? It's a military target. These are psychopathic fucking people.
Military intent or by a conflict between two parties.
I saw that press conference.
Wait, let me just say something. All of this talk is a bit irrelevant because it may sound to the listeners that the court in The Hague has ruled that Israel is committing genocide.
No, I think
but it hasn't.
No.
It's just going in the next few years to look at the whole subject.
Okay.
There has been no determination at all.
Fine.
And as Stephen says, some of the quotes are not exactly accurate quotes or taken out of context.
Total mischaracterization.
Yes.
Okay. It is correct, as Muin put it, that it'll be several years before the court makes a determination.
And my guess is that it will determine there was no genocide.
We can only
That's my guess. Yes, no, I'm just giving you my guess.
I can't predict. I got it all wrong, actually, as Muin will attest. I got it all wrong the first time. I never thought the American judge would vote in favor of plausibility.
So you admit that you were wrong?
Yeah, of course. I think I tell Muin twice a day I was wrong about this, and I was.
Benny is wilding out right now. The two fucking things happen. I've already got. Oh, god damn it, Benny. Benny. We're 2 hours into this stream. We're only 14 minutes minus 2, like 12 minutes into this fucking hour. So the first thing he says, all of this talk is a bit irrelevant because it may sound to the listeners that the court in The Hague has ruled that Israel is committing genocide. Really, Benny? Really, Benny? Is that right, Benny? All this talk of the evidence submitted before the International Court it sure just makes it sound like Israel committed genocide or that they ruled it had. No. Moeen was very, very fucking clear. Okay? He values words, Mr. Morris. He values his words and he says his words with the complete intention. You are the dick who is there not able to fucking comprehend anything. You've lost your mind, Mr. Morris. Professor Morris, you've lost your fucking mind. Shall we read again what Moeen Rabbani motherfucking said? What has it said? On 26th of January, the court issued its initial ruling. The court at this stage is not making a determination on whether Israel has or has not committed genocide. So just as it has not found Israel guilty, it certainly also hasn't found Israel innocent. That's what he said. He said that. He said that very clearly and convincingly in plain language. Professor Morris, what's the problem with plain language? Oh, we don't have to go through this anymore. Oh, we don't have to go through this. Norm already said he thinks of it. Boo. Just crying. And his voice is shaking. Right? When he says, let me just say something. All this talk is a bit irrelevant. Am I imagining it? Let's listen again. But I believe he is shaking in his voice. He is incredibly distressed with how badly he's getting fucking wiped he's not getting wiped. He is being wiped on the floor with, they're wiping the floor with him. He's the mop. The floor is the floor, but Benny's a mop. And they're mopping it. They're mopping the floor with him. I don't know how more clearly I can say it. Let's listen again. Listen to the shaking in his voice.
Military intent or by a conflict between two parties.
I saw that press conference.
Wait, let me just say something. All of this talk is a bit irrelevant because it may sound to the listeners that the court in The Hague has ruled that Israel is committing genocide.
No, I think
but it hasn't. It hasn't.
No.
It just is going in the next few years to look at the whole subject.
Okay.
There
I think
has
we're
been
agreed on that.
no determination at all.
Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit on the shaking. He's not really shaking. But Benny, you're just saying exactly the first thing that was uttered at the top of this hour in an exasperated voice, as if that's something that nobody else will admit to. Again, we're seeing these same patterns. Norm Finkelstein or Benny Morris, Norm Finkelstein or Moin Rabbani will lay out their argument, their perspective on something. And then at some point, either Pestiny or Benny will be like, and they'll just say that argument back to them in a whiny voice as if that person didn't ever say it. Right? It all started with, but very few people will ever want to admit that the Palestinians rejected the partition resolution. Right? Remember how fucking stupid that is? We can never forget the epic stupidity of the very first thing that Stephen Bonell said when he opened his mouth in this debate, right? It really set the tone for the whole debate because it's so incredibly bonkers that it's like you're not even listening to either of the first three people who talked, because every one of them said that the Arabs rejected the partition resolution. And Stephen, in his opening statement, is like, what's funny when people talk about 1948 is they never want to talk about the time that in 47 when the Palestinians outright rejected the partition resolution, which would have been a peace. It was an agreement for peace. Oh, a peace agreement, was it? We're going to peacefully carve your country up and only give you a small percentage of it and rule you with an iron fist and not allow you to be citizens of any country ever and not allow you to have any rights. What a peaceful resolution. Wow, peace. And those bad Arabs didn't like it. Oh, those bad. They're so mean, aren't they? Those mean old Arabs. They said no to this beautiful plan of peace that would have been so peaceful and fair for them. Oh. I mean, that's the argument these guys tried to bring up. They're basically trying to demonize the Arab side. They did a terrible job at it because they didn't provide anything that was at all convincing and nothing that didn't make me want to fucking puke in my mouth and hate them for even daring to fucking try to argue. You make a lot of enemies doing shit like this. I guess technically you might make friends with some other fellow psycho fucks, but Jesus, Emily Christ. What's his middle name? Emily? Maybe it's Hemini, because it's Jesus H. Christ. Jesus criminy Christmas Christ. The next time that Benny Morris, look at his, so you admit you were wrong? Norman Finkelstein says, I got it all wrong, actually. As Moyne will attest, I got it all wrong the first time. I never thought the American judge would vote in favor of plausibility. Here comes Benny Morris. Hey, Benny, wake up. It's your time. It's your big moment. Norm Finkelstein just admitted. Oh my God, he admitted it. He just said he's wrong about that thing. No. Don't say about that thing. Just say that he's wrong. That way the audience will just, that we have this great soundbite. You admit you were wrong. We can imply that it's wrong about anything, right? He just said he's wrong, like wrong, period. Literally everything he says is wrong. Norm just admitted that everything he ever says and has ever said and ever will say is wrong. Oh my God. Got his ass. Woo, we got your ass. Norm, you just admitted you were wrong. Oh my God. And guess... Ooh, you're getting his ass, buddy. You're getting his ass. These are like the noodly armest little attacks. The fact that you're interrupting just to say, so you admit you were wrong. When he literally just said, hey, I didn't think that judge would find their case plausible. I didn't think that they would, or at least I didn't think they would vote in favor of plausibility. It was a fucking American. I mean, they're so fucking Zionized out, the Americans. He's like, it was surprising. I was wrong about that. I thought Moeen will tell you I was wrong. So Benny Morris, so you admit you were wrong? Yeah, Benny. It sounds like you can kind of almost understand words. It almost seems like you can kind of understand what Norm was just saying there. You heard some words he said, but then you asked a follow-up question to clarify that you truly did hear what you thought you heard, right? Because up until now, Benny, I guess, was Norm arguing that he is never wrong? About what, by the way? Why didn't you finish that sentence? Why didn't you say, so you admit you were wrong about how the judges would vote? Yeah, I just said that. No, Benny Morris doesn't say about. He just says you were wrong. Literally, he just wants a soundbite. He knows this is going to be clipped, and he got a soundbite. Here's the soundbite. So you admit you were wrong? Yeah, of course. And then it'll cut to some other thing, right? That's all you wanted. You dumb fuck. No, Benny, it's so pathetic and so obvious what you're fucking trying to do right now. Constantly, Benny, you literally just ask questions back to what the person just said. Hey, Benny, let's have a debate. Let's debate chocolate or vanilla. I think chocolate's the best. Do you have any questions? So you think chocolate's better than vanilla? Yes. So you think vanilla's not as good as chocolate? Right. So you admit that you like chocolate better? Yep. So chocolate is better to you? Yes. Oh, so you would prefer chocolate to vanilla. If I gave you the choice between chocolate and vanilla, you'd choose chocolate? Yes. Uh-huh. And so, do you condemn Hamas? It's like, you're supposed to be arguing for vanilla. You're just asking me repeatedly if I'm on the position I have just declared that I'm on. Think of an argument, you fuck. Why aren't you contributing anything to this fucking conversation? You were doing okay at the very beginning. You were at least coherently talking about what was happening and putting forth some kind of argument. This is fucking embarrassing. You've completely lost your mind. And we're only we're over the hump. You know, but we're not done. We're not close to done with this thing, Benny. You can't quit now. Your brain can't shut off now. Norm says, I think I tell Moeen twice a day I was wrong about this and I was wrong about that. I'm not wrong about the facts. I try not to be, but my speculations, they can be wrong. Leaving that aside, first of all, as Moeen pointed out there's a difference between the legal decision by the ruling and independent judgment, the legal decision by the ruling, and an independent legal judgment. Now, South Africa was not filing a frivolous case. This was 84 pages. It was single. Even 84 pages can be frivolous. It takes a half hour to read. It was not a massive case. It was single-spaced and had literally hundreds of footnotes. It can still be frivolous. It can be. It's possible. Of course, but this one wasn't, says Boeing. Norm, I read the report. To tell you the truth, I followed very closely everything that's been happening to October 7th. I was mesmerized. I couldn't believe the comprehensiveness of that particular report. Number two, there were two quite respected experts of international law sitting on the South African panel, John Duggard and Von Lowe. Von Lowe, as you might know, he argued the war case in 2004 before the International Court of Justice. Now, they were alleging genocide, which in their view means the evidence in their mind, we are not yet at the court, the evidence in their minds compel the conclusion that genocide is being committed. Wait, what's going on? There were they were alleging genocide, which in their never means the evidence in their minds compels the conclusion that genocide is being committed. I'm willing, because I happen to know that Mr. Duggard personally, and I've corresponded with Von Lowe, I've heard their claim, I've read the report, I would say they make a very strong case, but let's agree plausible. Now, here's a question. If somebody qualifies for an Olympic team, let's say a regional person qualifies for an Olympic team, it doesn't mean they're going to be on the Olympic team. It doesn't mean they're going to win a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal. But they can swim, that's what you're saying. No, I'd say that's a very high bar to even qualify. Okay, so he's using the example of qualifying for the Olympics as a parallel to the court finding a plausible case, right? Stephen tried to say it's a very low bar. It's an incredibly low bar, he said. And Norm is saying it's actually a quite high bar, you stupid fuck. To even qualify, means they can swim well enough to have a realistic prospect at winning a medal. So to even make it to plausible, here comes Stephen. That's not true. That's not what plausible means. It's absolutely not. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Stephen, Mr. Borelli. Mr. Borelli, please don't teach me about the English language. Thank you, Norman. So the declaration judge, okay, Stephen's going to go on and try to fucking talk about, just read his own little bullshit. Stephen, you don't know how to use your fucking brain. You don't understand the English language. You have proven that again and again, that you are approaching this entire debate in, I'm going to say it, bad faith. Bad faith. Bad faith. You're going to try to tell the international law expert what a plausible case means. What the court is not asked at this present phase of the proceedings to determine whether South Africa's legislators are well-founded. They're not even well-founded. You said that plausible was a high standard. It's absolutely not. It's a misrepresentation of the strength of the case against Israel. Just like the majority of the quotes they have been in the case. You also said it was an extremely well-founded case. They spent like 1/4 of all the quotations, some even pulled from the Goldstone report, that actually deal with the intent part, which is, by the way, I don't know if you used the phrase Dulus specialis, that is intentional part of the genocide. Moeen, I don't know that term. I think it's called Dolorius Specialis. It's the most important part of genocide, which is proving it is highly special intent to commit genocide. It's possible that Israel... Oh my goodness, look at this transcript. That's foreign language. Foreign language. What a great transcript. He said a foreign language word. Okay, you don't want to be more specific than that? Than telling me it was a foreign language? Wow. Way to go, Transcriptio. Well, let's listen to it with our ear holes instead.
It may sound to the listeners that the court in The Hague has ruled that Israel is committing genocide.
No, I think
but it hasn't.
No.
It just is going in the next few years to look at the whole subject.
Okay.
There has been no determination at all.
Fine.
And as Stephen says, some of the quotes are not exactly accurate quotes or taken out of
Total
context.
mischaracterization.
Yes.
Okay. It is correct, as Moeen put it, that it'll be several years before the court makes a determination.
And my guess is that it will determine there was no genocide. That's my guess. I'm just giving you my guess.
I can't predict. I got it all wrong, actually, as Moeen will attest. I got it all wrong the first time. I never thought the American judge would vote in favor of plausibility.
So you admit that you were wrong?
Yeah, of course. I think I tell Moeen twice a day I was wrong about this and I was wrong about that. I'm not wrong about the facts. I try not to be, but my speculations, they can be wrong. Okay, leaving that aside. First of all, as Moeen pointed out, there's a difference between the legal decision by the ruling and an independent judgment. Now, South Africa was not filing a frivolous case. That was 84 pages. It was single.
Even 84 pages can be frivolous.
It takes an hour and a half to read. It was not a massive case.
It was single-spaced, and it had literally hundreds of footnotes.
It can still be frivolous.
It's possible.
Of course,
it
but
could
this
be.
one wasn't.
Yeah, I read the report. To tell you the truth, I followed very closely everything that's been happening to October 7th. I was mesmerized. I couldn't believe the comprehensiveness of that particular report. Number two, there are two quite respected judges, there were two quite respected experts of international law sitting on the South African panel, John Dugard and Vaughan Lowe. Vaughan Lowe, as you might know, he argued the Wall case in 2004 before the International Court of Justice. Now, they were alleging genocide, which in their view means the evidence in their minds, we're not yet at the court, the evidence in their minds compels the conclusion that genocide is being committed. I am willing, because I happen to know Mr. Dugard personally and have corresponded with Vaughan Lowe. I've heard their claim. I've read the report. I would say they make a very strong case. But let's agree plausible. Now, here's a question. If somebody qualifies for an Olympic team, let's say a regional person qualifies for an Olympic team, it doesn't mean they're going to be on the Olympic team. It doesn't mean they're going to win a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal.
But they can swim, that's what you're saying.
No, I would say that's a very high bar.
You're saying they can swim.
To even qualify.
They can swim well enough to have a realistic prospect of winning a medal.
So, to even make it to plausible.
That is not true.
That
is not what plausible means. It is absolutely not. You're dead wrong.
Mr. Borelli.
You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong, Finkelstein. That's not what plausible means. That's not what plausible means, you motherfuck. You're dead wrong. What does plausible really mean? Well, it's actually interesting. If we look in the Spanish, plausible means worthy or deserving of applause. That's plausible. Sí, es muy plausible. Plausible, digno o merecedor de aplauso. That's great. O atendible, admisible o recomendable. Hubo para ello motivos plausibles. Okay, but I literally asked this to give me results in English. Show results in English. And then it's like, okay, how about all in Spanish instead? Superficially fair, reasonable or valuable, but often deceptively so. Superficially pleasing or persuasive, appearing worthy of belief. But again, to keep in mind with any word definition is that word definitions are often subject to the understanding of the speaker and their intention of what those definitions are, and their understanding of how the listener will interpret the meaning of that word, right? But we can all just say, if the court is only considering plausibility at this stage, and they have confirmed that plausibility, well, we can agree that it passed the first benchmark required by the International Court. Now, Stephen's going to argue that that benchmark is incredibly low. Like, they'll just take any case on the flimsiest of evidences, right? That's Stephen's idea. Don't teach me about the English language, Mr. Borelli.
Borelli, please don't teach me about the English language.
So the declaration of Judge Moy
said
says that the court is
plausibility
not
is the
asked
same
in the present
concept as
phase.
qualifying.
The court is not asked at this present phase of the proceedings to determine whether South Africa's allegations of genocide are well-founded. They're not well-founded. They're not even well-founded. The court isn't. You said that.
They're not even well-founded. Wait, the very thing you've just said is that at this phase, the proceedings have not been asked to determine whether they are. The very next sentence you say is you declare whether they are well-founded. You say they are not. Debate, bro. Logic and facts. Logic and facts. Logic and facts. What's your logic and facts for reading something that says one thing and then immediately declaring not that thing and pointing at the source as if the source somehow said that? This court is not asked at this present phase of the proceeding to determine whether South Africa's allegations of genocide are well-founded. Are you going to define what well-founded means? No, of course not. You're just going to let the audience and accept the common sense usage of that word. But for the word plausible, no. We have to look at this. We have to look at the International Court's interpretation of plausible. You said that plausible was a high standard. It's absolutely not. It's misrepresented of the strength of the... Oh, fuck, man. Just get over with it.
Plausible was a high standard. It is absolutely not. It is a misrepresentation of the strength of the case against Israel, just like the majority of the quotes they have in this case are. And also, you said it was an extremely well-founded case. They spend like 1/4 of all of the quotations, some even pulled from the Goldstone report, that try to that actually deal with the intent part. Mm-hmm.
They spend like 1/4 of all the quotations that actually deal with the intent part, which is, I don't know if you use the phrase. What the fuck is he saying? They spent 1/4 of all the quotations.
Which is, by the way, I think you guys, I don't know if you use the phrase, the dolo specialis, that the intentional part of genocide.
Sorry, I don't know that term.
I think it's called dolo specialis. It is the most important part of genocide, which is proving it is a highly special intent to
Which is proving is a highly special intent. The way he's like barking and punctuating and accenting these fucking words is so fucking annoying. Like, he's trying to enhance and prove his case by just, like, accenting these sounds, these words, when he's like, it is absolutely not. Extremely well, or, you know, what do you say? The most important part. Say it again?
Specialis. It is the most important part of genocide.
It is the most important part of genocide. I don't know, man. I think all the killing and action is kind of the most important aspect of it, but whatever.
Which is proving the special. It is a highly special intent.
It's not genocide unless they do a very highly specifically special thing. Okay? Bro, you are so far up your fucking ass that you don't realize how fucking psycho that sounds. They're killing and murdering fucking people every day. All day, every day. They're murdering people. And they're getting on TV and saying, yeah, we're doing that. Because they're Hamas. We think that they're hiding missiles in their kitchens. Even the innocent ones. Sorry. And the fact that you think, like, it's the most important part. Highly special intent. Like, he's spazzing the fuck out. Listen to this.
Specialis, that the intentional part of genocide.
Sorry, I don't know that term.
I think it's called dolo specialis. It is the most important part of genocide, which is proving the special. It is a highly special.
Special, highly special
intent to commit genocide. It is the most important part of genocide, which is proving the special. It is a highly special intent to commit genocide. It's possible that Israel could.
That's mens rea.
That's mens rea. Mens rea. Is that the phrase? Yeah, mens rea. The intentional or knowledge of wrongdoing that constitutes part of a crime. You, Mr. Bonnell, are such a fantastic moron that it's terrifying. Norm's like smiling. Yeah, that's mens rea. Like the legal expert who's written like 100 books is gonna sit back and listen to Steve Bonnell teach him about the legal standards, and Steven doesn't even know. Like, I think it's called dolus specialis.
No. The mens rea. Yes, I understand the state of mind, but for genocide, it's called dolo specialis. It's a highly special intent. Did you read the case?
Yeah.
It is
Did you read the case? So again, it's the theatrics. Like, he has to just try to. All he's doing, he can't make a fucking sensible argument. He's just babbling about a Latin term that he doesn't even know is correct. But he knows it's not mens rea. Did you read the case? Did you even read the case? You just try to make sound bites, man.
highly special intent.
I'm
going to
ask you again.
Genocide. Yes.
Please stop displaying your imbecility.
Okay, I'm sorry if you think
Please stop displaying your imbecility. Please stop displaying your imbecility. Stephen, you are such a fantastic moron. Please stop displaying your imbecility. I'm sorry if you think the declaration of the judge is imbecility. Stephen is trying to say what everything he was saying was just what a judge says. Can you imagine the judge being like, so the most important standard, I think it's, what's it called? I think it's called dolus specialis. It's the most important part of the genocide, which is proving a highly highly special intent to commit genocide. A highly special intent. So it's not genocide unless their intent was highly special. Highly special intent. Wow. Tell me more, Bonell. Tell me more about this amazing knowledge that you have. Did you even read the case, Stephen, or Norman Finkelstein? Did you even read the case?
The declaration of the judge is imbecile.
Don't put on public display that you're a moron. At least have the self-possession to shut up. Did I read the case?
Putting my display on camera if you're comfortable putting yours in books. Okay?
I read the case around 4 times. I read all of the majority opinion, the declarations. I read Aaron Barak's declaration.
Then why are you lying and saying plausible suffice?
Our own Barak? He said our own Barak's declaration.
Standard.
Because from Barak's declaration.
Then why are you lying and saying plausible suffice standard?
Because I said even reaching the benchmark of plausibility is a very high standard in the world. It's the equivalent of a regional player qualifying for an Olympics. It's still 2 steps removed. You may not be on the team and you may not get a medal, but to get qualified, which in this context is the equivalent of plausible, you must be doing something pretty horrible. As it happens, Professor Morris,
there wasn't no genocide. That's what the court will rule.
Shut up, Benny. Shut your fucking mouth, Benny. You're always so fucking annoying, Benny. We don't want to hear you babble, Benny. Oh. But when you think that it couldn't get worse, then you get Stephen Bonell flapping his fucking gums. And when he flaps his gums, the whirlwind of bullshit that emerges is terrifying. He's a moron. And his moronicness, his idiocy, his imbecility is fucking great and terrifying. But he's no match for Norman Finkelstein. Because, Stephen, why are you lying and saying that plausible is an extremely low standard? Why haven't you pointed out anything that explains what you mean by that? And, like, obviously you have to then introduce a case outside of this that all audience would agree, damn, that's a really low standard that the court said was plausible. Damn. Or like point out, I guess you would just point out different cases where they were plausible, but they ended up ultimately losing. And you could say like, yeah, they had no case. How will I ever get through this? You know, this has been a long stream. It's the weekend now, so I, have a little extra time. Don't have to go to bed. And I took a little nap before, took a night nap. Night naps are risky, especially if you're a night owl. Because, I've only got the weekend to try to get my sleep schedule sort of back on track. Oopsie.
It happens,
as it happens, Professor Morris, there was no genocide. That's what the court will rule. Remember what I just told you. The court will
I don't
rule,
expect to be even genocide. Around when the court reaches its final and you equivalent of in reaching the benchmark of plausibility is a very high standard in the world. It's the equivalent of a regional player qualifying for an Olympics. It's still 2 steps removed. You may not be on the team and you may not get a medal, but to get qualified, which in this context is the equivalent of plausible, you must be doing something pretty horrible.
But the
And
court,
as it happens,
the
as it happens,
the court will
Professor
rule
Morris,
there was no
as-
genocide.
as- as
That's
it-
what the court will rule. Remember what I just told you. The court will
I don't
rule
expect
there
to
was
be
no
even
genocide.
around when the court reaches its final decision.
Why?
Why? It'll take a long, long time.
2 years, 3
No,
years.
I don't think it'll take 2 or 3 years.
I mean,
but,
Bosnia, which was admittedly a special type of case because they were accusing Serbia of sponsoring the Bosnian Serbs, that took, I think, 17 years from 90.
I assume they'll take 2 or 3 years.
But the point you're making, so this
I'm
is
saying
illegal.
that something horrible must be happening to even achieve.
It is horrible. It's a war.
Yeah,
It's true.
It's
Yes.
horrible.
But I
Except
think-
they weren't rendering a ruling on a war. They were rendering a ruling on a genocide.
And I think
They didn't
the
render it.
suggestion.
And they said it was
just said,
plausible. They also
we'll
said it was
talk about
plausible
it.
that Israel is committing a
But I thi-
military
I thi-
operation as well.
Yeah, but I think the problem with your characterization is you're saying in so many words the South Africans basically only have to show up in court with a coherent
Right.
Basically,
statement.
yes, that is correct.
In
They
today's
needed-
atmosphere, that's probably correct.
They needed to do a lot more.
Not
they
much more.
they needed
Not
to
much more.
they needed
The
to
American
persuade
judge?
Today's atmosphere.
The
forget
American
Americans.
judge?
they needed
Today's
to
atmosphere,
persuade
judges go according to what the majority want to hear.
Yeah, but
She
they
was
needed
the president.
Committing a
But I
military
thi- I-
operation as well.
yeah, but a
Yeah.
suggestion.
And they said it was
They just said,
plausible.
we'll-
They also
we'll
said it
talk
was
about it.
plausible that.
Ruling on a genocide.
And I think
They
the
didn't render it.
suggestion.
And they said it was
just said,
plausible.
we'll-
They also
we'll
said it was
talk about it.
plausible that Israel is committing a
But I
military
thi-
operation as well.
Yeah, but I think the problem with your characterization is you're saying in so many words the South Africans basically only have to show up in court with a coherent
Right.
Basically,
statement.
Right.
yes, that is correct.
In today's
needed-
atmosphere, that's probably correct.
They needed to do a lot more.
Not
they
much more.
they needed
Not
to
much more.
they needed
The
to
American
persuade.
judge?
Today's
So you're saying in so many words, yes, they are using so many words, that the South Africans basically only have to show up in court with a coherent statement. Right. That is correct. In today's atmosphere, that's probably correct. They needed to do a lot more than that. They needed to persuade the American judge, says Norm, they needed to persuade. Judges go according to what the majority want to hear, says Benny Morris. But they needed, let him speak, Norm, she was the president. Moeen, they needed to persuade the court that it was worth investing several years of their time into hearing the case. Yeah, that's a great point. They needed to persuade the court that it was worth investing several years of their time in hearing this case. They're probably well paid for it. Yeah, not the point, Benny. They're paid regardless, whether they hear this case or a different case. Okay. Thank you, Moeen. You took the words out of my mouth. They're well paid whether they take this case or not. They have a full docket whether they accept or reject this case. I don't think we should. Remember what I just said. They won't rule. There's a genocide. Remember what I said. We will remember, Benny. We will remember all the genocidal fucked up shit you said, and you will, I hope, stand before a judgmental spaghetti monster at the end of your life, and he will fucking slap you silly for all your bullshit. He'll say, "Hey, Benny, you're a real piece of shit down there. Why'd you have to go and defend the genocide, you dick?" Whack, slapping him in the face, slapping him in the face, slapping him in the face with the noodles. Mr. Borelli, brace yourself. Steven's like, also, I recommend you actually read the case and follow through the law of the courts. They don't show genocidal intent. Actually, they don't. Well, the quote, the example that you gave, Mr. Borelli, did absolutely show genocidal intent. That was the goddamn president. We will break their backbone. All the civilians are in on it. Even the innocent ones have missiles in their kitchens. So therefore, we're gonna destroy them all in order to protect our homes. Stephen, so you didn't do a good job giving an example of that. And now you better brace yourself, Stephen. Get ready to get wrecked, because you gotta brace yourself in your seatbelt. You're gonna babble. Motor mouth. The Israeli Minister of Finance on the 8th of October 23. This is taken from the ICJ. This is South African submission. I can't read this. I can't read this. Bezalel Smotrich. There you go. At a meeting of the Israeli cabinet that we need to deal a below that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza. But again, if you click through and you read the source, their own source link, it says per this account, the powerful finance minister, settler leader of Bezalel Smotrich, I can't pronounce this, demanded at the cabinet meeting late Saturday that the army, quote, hit Hamas brutally and not take the matter of the captives into significant consideration. As in war, you have to be brutal. He was quoted as saying, we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza. You can't strip the quotation of Hamas, an entity we are at war with, and then there was genocidal intent. Strip the quotation of Hamas. Okay, so here's another one of these things, right? The quote said this, but actually, the quote said all this. So what part was omitted? This part. This part was omitted from the context of we need to deal a blow. It should be blow, B-L-O-W. That hasn't been seen in 50 years. Take down Gaza. We need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years. Take down Gaza. But again, if you click through and read the source, again, Stephen, you clicked through, which means they weren't hiding this. So he's saying that because this quote doesn't mention Hamas, that they're hiding, they're stripping the quotation of Hamas. Hit Hamas brutally and not take the matter of captives into significant consideration. As in war, you have to be brutal. So because in the sentence before he said hit Hamas, later when he says take down Gaza, you're saying that they stripped the quotation of Hamas, an entity we're at war with, and then what, claim? I bet he said claim, and then claim there was genocidal intent? You are a fantastic moron, but buddy, you better be bracing yourself, because Norm, I'm sure, is cooking up something to fucking cook your ass. Because you were just going on about some like Latin word that you don't even know how to pronounce, and then accusing Norm of not reading the report. Okay? So I just have a feeling you're setting yourself up to be fucking cooked. That's all I'm saying.
Atmosphere.
The American judge?
They needed to persuade
judges go according to what the majority want to hear.
Yeah, but they needed
president.
They needed to persuade the court that it was worth investing several years of their time in hearing this case. They're well paid whether they take this case or not. I mean, you know, they have a full docket whether they accept or reject this case. And I don't think we should
remember what I just said. They won't rule there was genocide. Remember what I said.
Also, I recommend people actually read the case and follow through a lot of the quotes. That they just don't show genocidal
Mr.
intent.
I don't think so either.
The Israeli Minister of
Mr.
Finance on the
Borelli.
8th of October 2023, this is taken from the ICJ, this is from South Africa's submission, Bezalel Smotrich, I can't read this, stated,
Smotrich.
there you go, okay, at a meeting of the Israeli cabinet that, quote, we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza, end quote. But again, if you click through and you read the source, their own linked source, it says, as per this own source, quote, the powerful finance minister, settler leader, Bezalel Smotrich,
Him pointing out that it's their own source. How do you think that's actually helping your case here? They're obviously providing the full context because they have nothing to hide. They're pulling out the relevant quotes that make their case, and then they're linking to the rest of it. Oh, my page has crashed, but I think I'm still streaming. Stream ding dong, streamaling ding ding dong. Their own source. Like, he really keeps pounding on that as if that helps his case at all. That hurts your case. They're not dishonestly, surreptitiously chopping evidence and hiding the true meaning of it. They're providing the full context to the court, which the court had, and the court saw, and the court said, yeah. Your example is bullshit. It doesn't say anything to contradict their intention to deal a blow that hasn't been 50 years to take down Gaza. You dickhead.
I can't pronounce this. Demanded at the cabinet meeting late Saturday that the army, quote, hit Hamas brutally and not take the matter of the captives into significant consideration, end quote. Quote, in war, as in war, you have to be brutal, end quote. He was quoted as saying, quote, we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza, end quote. You can't strip the quotation of Hamas, a entity that you're at war with, and then...
Strip! He really chews the scenery with this word. He hams it up. You can't strip the quotation of Hamas. Did they strip the quotation of Hamas? I mean, the Hamas, there's like two separate, obvious, like, these are separate quotes. He didn't continually say this. These are separate quotes. All three of these are separate quotes. So these are all pulled out of context. So how is he stripping the quote of Hamas? The part about Hamas was a separate quote, you dickhead. Even according to the fucking thing you're reading, it provided three isolated, separated quotes from this motherfucker. The ICJ pointed out the third one and left a link to the whole context so you can hear the other two. All of those quotes. This quote shows his intention to be brutal. This quote also intent to hit Hamas brutally and not take the matter of captives. He's talking about Israeli hostages. He's saying smash Hamas brutally whether or not Israeli captives are there. Don't take that into consideration. He's talking about Hannibal directive shit. He's like, kill our own people. I don't care as long as you kill Hamas. So those are the two other quotes that are separated and isolated. You are a fantastic moron if you want to say that this quote has been stripped of the word Hamas. No, it never had Hamas in it. The Hamas reference was in a separate quote. A separate quotation, you dickhead. A separate quotation, you dick munch. A separate quotation, you motherfucker, because you don't even know how to eat lunch.
And then pretend that there's genocidal intent. That's not how
Gaza.
That's not
And going back.
So funny.
You're lying about
It's
the Great
so
Russian Return
funny.
had aspects
Okay.
of violence to it.
Okay.
According, even the UN says it themselves.
Okay.
But you only collect what the UN says that you like.
You see, the problem, Mr.
That's not genocide.
So when the Ukrainians say we need to defeat Russia,
that's not genocide.
No. When Ukraine says we need to defeat Russia, is that genocide? Genocidal? Do they mean killing all Russian citizens?
Professor Morris, here's another one. When the defense, ridiculous.
Yes, ridiculous.
The American judge.
He also doesn't determine policy.
The American judge read.
You are holding the American judge to
Well, she was the president.
Yes, he'll appeal to authority when it agrees with him, and we won't deal with the actual facts of the matter ever.
Okay. The American judge read several of the quotes.
Look at the American Supreme Court today. They may support Trump. It shows you how worthy American judges are.
Professor Morris, without going too.
Benny just can't help himself. He's got to jump in and just criticize and take, and he's not wrong. Look at the American Supreme Court today. It shows you how worthy American judges are. Yeah, that's kind of the point. He's saying that even an American judge was persuaded by it, which in and of itself is a high bar, because look at the fucking American Supreme Court. Look at the worth of American judges. They're fucking psychopaths. They're bloodthirsty, psychopathic, morally bereft, ego-inflated pieces of shit. Every fucking one of them. Okay? And they're all right-wing, and they're all Zionist. So, if you can convince one of them it's genocide, it might be a fucking genocide. When Ukrainians say we need to defeat Russia, is that genocidal? I don't know, man. Who, in the parallel between Russia and Ukraine, who's the Russia, who's the Ukraine? I mean, I don't know, man. Which one attacked the other first? Which one is occupying another country versus which one is defending their home country from attack? I don't know. I don't know if that's relevant at all. We had teachers in school. Our school had a zero tolerance policy for violence, which means if you start a fight with someone, you'll be in trouble for fighting. But if you fight back when someone else starts a fight, you'll be in trouble for fighting. Right? So when two people are fighting, the thing we heard ad nauseum by teachers was, it doesn't matter who started it. Both of you. Go to the office. Both of you are in trouble. You're both in trouble for fighting. It doesn't matter who started it. I don't care who started it. Both of you. Go. I don't care who started it. All three of you. But he had jumped us. Or they jumped him like he was just running back. I don't care. All three of you. Go to the office. This is zero tolerance. They all get suspended for fighting because the teachers were like, I don't care. It doesn't matter who started it. I'm going to finish it. And it's got that same energy of completely unreasonable, unjust, unfair. And it builds resentment amongst the students against authority because authorities always act in the interest of the most powerful, right? If every time you launch an unwarranted attack against a victim and you and the victim both land in the same amount of trouble, yet you had the upper hand and ability to actually injure that poor fucking sap, and they're going to punish that victim equally as much as they punish the perpetrator, well, that is a system that's blatantly in favor of the oppressor, while being able to try to claim the veil of or the illusion of equality. Oh, we're just applying equally to both sides. They should both be in trouble for fighting, right? The whole idea of self-defense is not even considered. Zero tolerance policy. This has that energy to it of a centrist, of a nauseatingly centrist, avoid conflict, no violence, let's fight for peace kind of bullshit. Is it just like ignores the circumstances, the causes, and the things that perpetuate these problems. It's feeling like you can just get into a rhythm of putting out little fires when they happen versus addressing the reason as to why are all these fires starting, you know? All right. We've been going a long time. This is 3.5 hours. I think we can let it go. Let's let it go. I'm almost got the sore throat from yelling too much. This was a lively one. This was a lively stream. Like I said, I had a nap. I had a big coffee. I'm kind of still having a coffee. So I had a lot of energy for this one, and it was good. We got through kind of a lot. We got through about 20 minutes of it. 20 minutes and 3 hours. That's fuck. We're speeding through this. We're speeding through it. Because you know what? Thankfully, as per my request, Lex Friedman refrained from pissing me off. He only pissed me off one time early on. And I said, Lex, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be pissing me off every fucking 2 minutes with your bullshit. Because he did his bullshit. He said, Norm, can you let Noeen finish? When it's clearly, obviously, blatantly Benny Morris who is being the disruptive, childish motherfucking fuck. And you refuse to even look at him. You refuse to even make eye contact with Benny. You kept your fucking dumb meathead pointed toward Norm and Moeen, and then you're like, Norm, come on, let Moeen talk. When Benny Morris is just motor mouthing it in your fucking other ear. Lexifer, you fucked up. And I admonished you for it. And thankfully, for at least the next 20 minutes or so, you pretty much kept your trap shut. You spoke up a little bit, but it wasn't even that intrusive. It wasn't that bad. It was fine. It was just a little thing. What you said, but the point you're making, so this is a legal, you know, whatever. He didn't get it out because he realized as soon as he opened his mouth that this was stupid to say and not worth anything. So he shut up. Oh yeah, he did do the hey, whoa, let him read. Okay, I'm not that mad about that. Whatever. Steven wanted to read his thing. He was very excited to. And Lex is like, whoa, let him read. He's like, okay, I guess if we're reading from stuff, I gotta let Steven do it too. But other than that, Lex so far. Oh yeah, he's like, personal opinion is also, yeah. So he was encouraging Moeen to give his personal opinion. He's saying that's good, that's great. So, okay, good. We like you for that, buddy. Hey, whoa. Let him read. Will he ever admonish Rabbani or Destiny? We will find out. But so far, no. Okay, so we're leaving off at about 3:22:50. I started coloring this one, but yeah, I want to listen to this part again in our part 2. But this is pretty good, pretty decent. Let's call it a night. Remember, it's not complicated. There's just a lot to untangle, but it's not complicated to oppose genocide, and it's not complicated to see that you need to stand for the Palestinian people. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. And, take care of yourselves out there. Have a good one.